Chapter 920. Who? A dazzling golden light descended, causing the hearts of the geniuses to tremble. Before this, Xiaolin Yue and Greedwolf suddenly acted against Qin Wentian. Evidently, they didn't want Xian Yang to capture Qin Wentian and wanted to injure him before snatching him away. But at this instant, golden light illuminated the sky. There seemed to be an expert descending from the heavens to save Qin Wentian. Could it be that this person was the same as Xiaolin Yue, someone who wanted to snatch Qin Wentian away? A spatial storm appeared in the sky, and dazzling rays of golden light shot out in all directions like sharp swords. When they saw the figure wrapped in light, everyone's eyes narrowed, and their hearts trembled violently. Xian Yang, who was rushing over, suddenly stopped. He frowned, and a strange expression appeared on his face. Why was she here as well? Was she also here for the god's hand? The figure that appeared was actually a peerlessly beautiful woman. Her expression was as cold as ice, and even though she was angry, she was still so beautiful that it caused people's hearts to tremble, and they couldn't help but feel pity for her. Her holy figure was like a celestial maiden from the 9 heavens, noble, holy, and elegant. What a beautiful maiden! Her countenance is even more outstanding compared to Xiaolin Yue. Who is she? Someone asked. Could she be Nam Huang Yunxi? No, I've seen Nam Huang Yunxi once before. Although they are both supreme beauties, their auras are different. Someone replied. Then who could she be? There are only 3 people in the city of ancient emperors with such an aura. Xiaolin Yue is already here, and Nam Huang Yunxi is also eliminated. Who else could it be? That person spoke again, his words causing the gazes of everyone to tremble. Among the 3 supreme beauties in the city of ancient emperors, the daughter of the Chongqing the Great was the most mysterious. She rarely showed her face in public and had an innate immortal king physique. She didn't establish any sect in the city of ancient emperors, and there were no rumors of her interacting with anyone. But now, she actually appeared. The daughter of Chongqing the Great, Princess Qing. Many people gradually learned the identity of the person who had appeared, and they were slightly surprised. The person who was most unlikely to appear actually appeared here at this moment. Is she Qing senior brother Qin's lover? Jun Mengchen stopped fighting at this moment. He stared at the peerless figure floating in the air as a smile appeared on his face. Just when senior brother Qin needed help the most, Princess Qing had appeared. Not only that, she was a peerless beauty that matched well with senior brother Qin. No wonder senior brother Qin had always wanted to find her. Senior brother Qin and Princess Qing will definitely become an immortal couple. Jun Mengchen smiled. Zi Qingxian, who was beside him, also stared at that peerless figure as a look of disappointment flashed through her eyes. No wonder he couldn't forget about Princess Qing. Such a woman, with such strength and status, she had appeared by his side when he needed her the most, fighting shoulder to shoulder with him. In the air, Qin Wentian, who was in the form of a great rock, stared at that familiar figure as boundless warmth flashed in his eyes. At this instant, it was as though all the pain and injuries he had suffered were insignificant. After so many years, he finally saw Qing again. The distance between the particle world and the immortal realms was simply too far. Sometimes, he was also afraid that the two of them would be separated from each other. He was worried that time would change too much. Fortunately, he was thinking too much. She still appeared when he needed her the most. Just like in the past, as a man, he should have been the one to protect her. However, Qing was like his knight. She would always appear when he was in the most difficult situation, stand in front of him, and give him the help he needed the most. Moreover, she would do it silently, without asking for anything in return. This feeling, under the passage of time, accumulated deeper and deeper. A powerful golden light enveloped Qing, as well as Qin Wentian's gigantic body. Qing coldly stared at Xiaolin Yue, so cold that it caused chills to rise in the hearts of people. Xiaolin Yue also stared at the peerless figure before her. Regardless of demeanor or countenance, this woman wasn't in any way inferior to her. The daughter of Chongqing the Great, Princess Qing. Although Xiaolong Yue had never met Qing before, she could guess her identity. She had always been searching for Qing. The Immortal Ascension ranking stated that she was ranked number 6 while Qing was ranked number 5. In fact, Qing had even surpassed her. This made Xiaolong Yue extremely unhappy. She had been searching for Qing for a long time, wanting to have a battle with her. But even so, Xiaolong Yue didn't expect that they would meet each other at such a time. At such a time, Qing shouldn't have appeared here. You also want to capture him and snatch God's hand? Seeing that Qing wasn't replying, Xiaolong Yue continued, I initially thought that you had nothing to do with the world. But now that God's hand has appeared, you can no longer endure it. Qing still coldly stared at her, ignoring Xiaolong Yue. She turned her head back and saw the warmth in Qin Wentian's eyes. The coldness in her eyes vanished, replaced with a hint of worry. She didn't expect that she would encounter Qin Wentian here in the city of ancient emperors. She didn't expect that he would be able to arrive so quickly in the city of ancient emperors where the geniuses of the immortal realms gathered. Qing had never doubted Qin Wentian. It was just that she didn't expect Qin Wentian to be able to arrive so quickly. Seeing Qing directly turning her head and ignoring her, Xiaolong Yue's entire body erupted with coldness, extremely terrifying. After that, she only heard a melodious voice ringing out. You are injured. Qing stared at Qin Wentian. That melodious and gentle silhouette of hers was completely different from the cold demeanor she exuded earlier. It was as though they were two different people. Her voice contained a trace of worry, as well as a hint of sadness. The gazes of the crowd froze. This Qin Wentian was acquainted with the daughter of the Changqing the Great, Princess Qing. Qing didn't come here for the god's hand. But rather, it was because she was acquainted with Qin Wentian. Xiaolong Yue's beautiful eyes froze as she stared ahead in bewilderment. After that, she only saw a smile flickering in Qin Wentian's eyes as he spoke, after seeing you, what do these injuries count for? As the sound of his voice faded, the hearts of the crowd trembled. Qin Wentian's words were filled with ambiguity. They stared at Qing's expression, wanting to see her expression of anger. However, she was still as calm as ever, as cold as ever. However, the coldness she exuded was different from the coldness she showed to Xiaolong Yue. This was an innate temperament, containing a hint of warmth within the coldness. Or maybe, this was just her personality. To everyone's surprise, Princess Qing wasn't angry at all. She only asked, why did you come to the city of ancient emperors? I came here to look for you, Qin Wentian replied, I met Princess Liuli before. She told me that you are here. Oh. Qing's expression was as cold as ever. However, a hint of warmth could be seen in her beautiful eyes, as well as her heart. No wonder he would appear here, he was actually here to look for her. Qin Wentian must have experienced many trials and tribulations on his way from his particle world to the city of ancient emperors. The conversation between the two of them caused strange expressions to appear on the faces of many. Seems like the relationship between Qin Wentian and Princess Qing was extraordinary. Their words were extremely intimate. Princess Qing. At this moment, Xian Yang, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. He coldly continued, this man is incomparably arrogant, wanting to kill my younger brother. I will definitely settle this debt with him. This matter has nothing to do with you, so please don't interfere. Things are getting more and more interesting. Xian Yang is ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Princess Qing is ranked number 5, and Xiaolong Yue is ranked number 6. All three of them have appeared here. How interesting. The spectators all had expressions of interest on their faces as they stared at the geniuses in the air. The three of them were facing off against each other, with Qin Wentian at the center of the storm. Xian Yang and Xiaolong Yue both wanted to capture him and obtain the god's hand. Yet, Qing was acquainted with Qin Wentian and wanted to protect him. Qing's countenance was ice cold. She coldly stared at Xian Yang, ignoring him. Her personality was still the same as before, rarely speaking. Only Qin Wentian could make her speak more. Let me ask you one last time. Are you going to scram or not? Qin Wentian's gigantic eyes stared at Xian Yang as he coldly spoke. Xian Yang's eyes flashed with coldness. Could it be that you think Princess Qing'e will definitely be able to protect you? In addition, are you even qualified to speak to me by relying on a woman? Relying on a woman? A mocking expression appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Even your father acted against me, shattering my god's hand. Yet you still have the face to speak to me like this? If it wasn't for your father intentionally doing this, do you think you have the qualifications to be so arrogant in front of me? Since this is the case, let me see if your father left a strand of his immortal sense on you. Qin Wendian icily spoke. Leave it to me. Qing'er seemed to understand what Qin Wendian wanted to do. She then walked to Qin Wendian's side. I can't possibly face you in my great rock form again, right? Qing'er, it's fine. Given my current strength, although the amplification effect of these techniques is getting weaker and weaker, the damage they can do to me is also getting weaker. I don't need to recuperate for too long. Qin Wendian's gigantic eyes flickered with a gentle smile. Xian Yang was the number 4 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings. In addition to Shaolin Yue and Greed Wolf, how could he feel at ease leaving them to Qing'er? Qing'er, leave it to me. Qin Wendian laughed. Abruptly, boundless sword might gushed forth from him. His entire body seemed to be on fire, as though he wanted to squeeze out every last strand of energy from his body. A towering beam of sword light shot up into the sky. Qin Wendian's gigantic body flickered as his sword might swept out in all directions, transforming into a terrifying wave of sword qi. It's that strike. From afar, Ji Lanshan and the other experts from the God Extermination Palace felt their hearts trembling when they saw this scene. If Qin Wendian transformed into a great rock and unleashed that sword strike, how terrifying would the might be? Michem. Xian Yang abruptly furrowed his brows. He activated the heavenly mystic mirror art to its limits, but he could also sense an intense threat from Qin Wendian. That surge of sword qi was simply too terrifying. Qin Wendian stretched out his claws. Instantly, boundless sword might congregated on his claws. His gigantic claws slashed out as a world-shaking sword qi manifested, capable of annihilating everything. I'm thinking, earlier when your little brother Xian Xing suffered an attack from me, your father's immortal sense appeared and acted against me as an immortal emperor, shattering my god's hand. In that case, would a second strand of immortal sense appear on your little brother Xian Xing's body? Qin Wendian coldly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, Xian Yang's countenance drastically changed. What do you mean? Chapter 921. Xian Yang's expression changed when he heard Qin Wendian's words. Just like what Qin Wendian said, Xian Xing had already suffered a fatal blow. It was the immortal sense of his father, the Xian Emperor, that protected Xian Xing from death and shattered Qin Wendian's god's hand. Xian Xing no longer had the protection of his immortal sense. If he were to receive another attack like the one earlier, it would definitely be a destructive blow to him. This was also the reason why the Xian Emperor wanted to destroy God's hand. But right now, the energy unleashed by Qin Wendian was enough to threaten Xian Xing's life. How could Xian Yang not be shocked? After he shouted out the words, "What do you mean?" Qin Wendian's gigantic body had already moved. He was like a bolt of lightning, radiating boundless sword might as he shot downwards. Fast, so fast that it was inconceivable. Not good, Xian Xing has an immortal weapon. Xian Yang roared. Xian Xing didn't even have time to react. Just as the sound of Qin Wendian and Xian Yang's voice faded, he saw a terrifying great rock speeding towards him. Instantly, Xian Xing's aura gushed forth frenziedly as an immortal weapon appeared in his hands. Halt! A cold voice rang out. A surge of sword qi condensed into a corporeal sword as boundless sword might envelop Xian Xing within. The terrifying great rock blocked Xian Xing's vision. The claws of the great rock pressed down, as though as long as Qin Wendian's claws pressed down, Xian Xing would be pierced through by thousands of swords. An ancient mirror appeared in his hand. Runic light flashed as immortal energy gushed forth. However, Xian Xing's hand stopped there. He didn't activate his immortal weapon. A truly powerful attack could determine life and death in a single breath. At this moment, Qin Wendian only needed a single breath to take Xian Xing's life. As long as he released his sword qi, Xian Xing would die for sure. He wouldn't have the time to activate his immortal weapon. You dare! Xian Yang roared. He stepped forward as his aura towered up into the sky, terrifying to the extreme. Qin Wendian's speed was simply too fast. In terms of pure speed, Xian Yang definitely wasn't a match for Qin Wendian. Xian Xing wasn't a match either. Hence, when Qin Wendian attacked Xian Xing, Xian Yang had no way to stop him. Xian Xing's cold eyes stared at the figure in the air as he icily spoke, "If you really kill me, leaving aside the question of whether you can leave the city of ancient emperors alive, even if you manage to do so, my father would surely hunt you down." Although the elders of the younger generation would not interfere in the grudges between the younger generation and the younger generation, if they really killed the younger generation, revenge was inevitable. Killing Xian Xing would definitely anger the mystic Tharch. Everyone stared at this scene as their hearts trembled. Before this, when Qin Wendian was controlling the god's hand, he had already launched a fatal attack against Xian Xing. It was the mystic Thearcha's immortal sense that obstructed him. Hence, no one could guarantee that Qin Wendian wouldn't kill Xian Xing. He might really kill Xian Xing, even if the person before him was the son of an immortal emperor. Qing lowered her head and stared below. Cold, it was like other than when she was facing Qin Wendian, she would always be like this. No matter what Qin Wendian wanted to do, she wouldn't stop him. Even if he really wanted to kill Xian Xing, the son of an immortal emperor. Keep your immortal weapon. Qin Wendian icily spoke. Xian Xing's eyes stiffened as he stared fixedly at the sky. Bzz. Sword qi gushed forth, Qin Wendian's sharp claws pressed down again. Boundless sword qi penetrated Xian Xing's body, causing his hair to flutter wildly as his countenance turned pale. Fine, I will keep it. You won't make such a foolish choice, right? Xian Xing kept his immortal weapon as he spoke in a loud voice. The geniuses of the Twin Stars Alliance all moved towards Qin Wendian, as though as long as Qin Wendian really killed Xian Xing, they would instantly erupt with power. Qin Wendian's gigantic body continued pressing downwards. Staring at his cold eyes, Xian Xing's body trembled slightly. Nervousness, incomparably nervousness. Xian Xing's entire body was stretched taut. This was a moment of life and death. No matter if he was the son of an immortal emperor or a supreme genius, if he lost his life, everything would come to an end. Qin Wendian, if you really kill Xian Xing, you definitely won't be able to bear the consequences. Xian Yang icily spoke. Qin Wendian, don't be rash. I can give up on God's hand. Xian Xing took a step back and even promised to give up on God's hand. However, Qin Wendian's body was still pressing downwards. His gigantic body was already right above Xian Xing's head. A stifling pressure bore down on Xian Xing. Qin Wendian flapped his wings, causing a raging wind to kick up as demonic qi gushed forth. Xian Xing's body trembled even more violently as he stared fixedly at Qin Wendian. From now onwards, I will definitely kill anyone who dares to seize God's hand. Qin Wendian howled in rage as a raging wind ravaged the entire space. His wings flapped furiously as he directly dove downwards. Like a bolt of lightning, his silhouette directly vanished from sight. Boom! Xian Yang was dumbfounded, the other geniuses were all dumbfounded as they stared at the blood that was fluttering in the air. That was Xian Xing's head, directly penetrated by the sword qi. A sharp claw latched onto his head as a myriad of swords pierced through his heart, causing fresh blood to spurt out. Kill! He really killed him, the son of an immortal emperor, Qin Wendian, killed him. He forced Xian Xing to give up his immortal ranked weapon and continued to press downwards. It wasn't because of considerations, but because he wanted to kill Xian Xing without unleashing the destructive might of that sword strike. Qin Wentian has been planning to take Xian Xing's life from the start. The reason why he held back was because he wanted to use the simplest method to end Xian Xing's life. That terrifying sword might has yet to be unleashed, he has been delaying for time. The hearts of the spectators pounded violently. Xian Xing's eyes hadn't even closed yet. His body slowly fell downwards. No matter how arrogant he was, no matter how noble his status was, he still died in the city of ancient emperors, losing his life. Qin Wentian really dared to kill Xian Xing. Xian Yang howled in madness. His body rushed towards Xian Xing, leaving behind only a corpse on the ground. His entire body trembled as he clenched his fists tightly. His aura towered up into the heavens, as though he would explode at any moment. His younger brother, Xian Xing, actually died in this tempering exercise in the city of ancient emperors. Die! With a roar of rage, Xian Yang's fists slammed into the ground, causing it to crumble. He inclined his head and stared at Qin Wentian, who was in the air. Bzz. A raging wind gusted as sword qi gushed down from the sky, resembling a river of swords from the 9 heavens. The boundless sword might contained a towering killing intent. The claws of the great rock were still there, this sword had yet to be unleashed. Terrifying immortal might gushed forth. Xian Yang took out his immortal-ranked long spear, exuding boundless killing intent. However, a sword keening filled the air as an incomparably demonic sword manifested from Qin Wentian's body. This sword directly sliced through Qin Wentian's palm, causing his sharp claws to bleed. Droplets of blood dripped onto the sword, causing a terrifying demonic qi to radiate from the sword. Clanging sounds rang out as it radiated boundless immortal light, wanting to tear apart the heavens. The shadow of a great rock could be faintly seen on the body of this sword, exuding an incomparable loftiness, like a true sovereign of the skies. The demon sword once said that it was a great rock in the clouds, hating the fact that the heavens were too low. Right now, the heavens of the immortal realms should be much higher compared to the heavens of particle worlds. It's not only the descendants of the Xian Emperor who have immortal-ranked weapons. Qin Wentian icily spoke. His other hand grabbed the wind rock rune bone as the shadow of a wind rock appeared, enveloping him. At this instant, the terrifying demonic qi and sword qi were so powerful that it caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Xian Yang's rage towered up into the sky, he stared fixedly at Qin Wentian, who was in the air. After Xian Xing died, the grudge between the two of them had already transformed into a life-and-death grudge. However, in Qin Wentian's eyes, when Xian Xing wanted to kill him and snatch away his god's hand, it was already destined that one of them would die. The people of the Twin Stars Alliance didn't make a move. The alliance between the sects in the city of ancient emperors was only a temporary one. Everyone here was a heaven's chosen, the descendants of immortal kings and emperors. But now that a life-and-death battle had occurred, everyone had to consider if it was worth it to interfere or not. Once they interfered, they would also form a life-and-death grudge with Qin Wentian. If it was just Qin Wentian alone, it was still fine. But now, there was the daughter of the Changqing the Great, Princess Qing. This debt was sufficient to cause everyone to be cautious when they acted. Xian Yang didn't act rashly. He stood there with an immortal-ranked weapon in his hand as he stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. Both of them were using immortal-ranked weapons to fight. If they collided, no one could predict the consequences. In that instant, the explosive might even kill him before the immortal sense of his father, the Xian Emperor, appeared. Qin Wentian also didn't move. The two of them stood there in a stalemate, staring at each other. On the other side, Xiaolin Yue walked towards Qing, as she spoke, "I've always wanted to challenge you to a battle." Even without Qin Wentian and God's hand, this battle was still unavoidable. I, Xiaolin Yue, really want to experience for myself how strong the princess that the Changqing the Great values the most is. As the sound of her voice faded, the terrifying freezing energy from Xiaolin Yue enveloped the entire space. Qing's cold gaze turned over, staring at Xiaolin Yue as a powerful spatial energy circulated around her. Resplendent spatial inscriptions could be seen beneath her feet. Bang! Xiao Yue punched out with her fist, causing the space before her to freeze inch by inch. Her speed was extremely fast, wanting to freeze all the experts in front of her to death. However, at the instant she attacked, Qing stepped out as spatial inscriptions shimmered beneath her feet. Her silhouette directly vanished, reappearing in another direction. What a powerful spatial energy, able to use the power of space to teleport, creating a terrifying threat. The hearts of the spectators trembled when they saw Qing's movements. These two supreme beauties were so powerful that they were all filled with anticipation. Humph, Xiao Yue coldly snorted. A terrifying ice constellation appeared as her fist light blasted out once more, causing the radius of the ice to grow even wider. However, Qing took a step forward. To the shock of the spectators, her body actually penetrated through the tyrannical ice energy, moving towards Xiao Yue. Chapter 922. What a powerful spatial energy, traversing through space and ignoring all attacks. This must be immortal law energy. Upon seeing Qing directly stepping out from Xiao Yue's attack, ignoring all of it, the hearts of the geniuses all trembled. No wonder Princess Qing could be ranked number 5 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Even before Xiao Yue, she had already comprehended a trace of immortal law energy, a transcendent force. The immortal realm was a huge threshold because it was a leap, a transformation. For those geniuses at the peak, even if they only comprehended a simple trace of immortal law energy, they would still be able to create terrifying effects. Only to see Qing's silhouette penetrated through the attacks and appeared before Xiao Yue. Punching out a simple punch, the resplendent spatial laceration energy transformed into resplendent beams of light, as though wanting to sever the space apart. The spectators only saw the beams of light enveloping Xiao Yue within. The might of this single punch was so strong that it caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Xiao Yue's entire body was enveloped by frost energy as rumbling sounds rang out, freezing the entire space. She stabbed out with her finger, causing an extreme coldness to corrode Qing's body. Only to see Qing slashing out with her palm as a beam of light slashed out, breaking apart the frozen space as it shot towards Xiao Yue. Xiao Yue's finger pointed towards that beam of sword light, unleashing a terrifying might as the sword light directly exploded apart. Frozen extermination calamity finger. The expressions of the spectators all stiffened when they saw Xiao Yue's finger art. She stretched out her jade-like hands as all 10 of her fingers shot out at the same time, as fast as lightning. The instant her finger art was unleashed, the space in front of her seemed to be frozen solid, capable of destroying everything in an instant. At the instant Xiao Yue unleashed her frozen extermination calamity finger, Qing also stretched out her palms. Resplendent golden light flashed as both her palms blasted out, manifesting a circular golden diagram. Boundless astral light cascaded down on it as the diagram expanded in size, directly blocking the space between the two of them. Xiao Yue's frozen extermination calamity finger frenziedly slammed into it, wanting to freeze the entire diagram. However, her attacks were unceasingly sucked into the golden diagram, being minced into pieces by the frenzied spinning of the diagram. The golden diagram abruptly radiated boundless light as it blasted outwards, wanting to destroy everything. This caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble violently. Xiao Yue was in danger. These two heavenly geniuses were really crazy. Now that they were fighting in close combat, the danger was undoubtedly very high. The slightest carelessness could lead to serious injuries or even death. How powerful, that's one of Matriarch Ged's supreme innate techniques, the immortal slaying diagram. Some geniuses recognized Qing's attack as shock filled their hearts. Changqing the Great's daughter, Princess Qing was an innately born immortal king and has an extraordinary physique. Back then when Changqing the Great fought for the throne, to protect her, he had to send her away. After he brought her back to the immortal empire, it's rumored that Changqing the Great doted on her a lot and even wanted to nurture her as his successor. Hence, he sent Princess Qing to Matriarch Ged's place to cultivate. Gd accepted Princess Qing as her personal disciple upon seeing her. This wasn't because she was giving face to Changqing the Great, it was because she truly liked Princess Qing. If not, she wouldn't have imparted her secret arts to her. One of the geniuses spoke in a low voice. These descendants of immortal emperors were all extremely knowledgeable and were extremely familiar with the powerful immortal emperors of the immortal realms. Indeed. What status does GD have in the immortal realms? She has always done things her own way and has a stubborn personality. She wouldn't give face to anyone. If it wasn't for the fact that she liked Princess Qing she wouldn't have accepted the daughter of Changqing the Great as her personal disciple. How could these people not know who GD was? Princess Qing had 2 immortal emperors standing behind her. How terrifying was that? The immortal slaying diagram radiated a boundless light, capable of destroying everything. In an instant, Xiaolin Yue was enveloped by the threat of death. Xiaolin Yue's attack seems to have been countered. The spectators silently mused. The power of spatial attacks was truly terrifying. No wonder Qing was ranked above Xiaolin Yue in the Immortal Ascension rankings. The power of the frozen extermination calamity finger unceasingly froze, yet it was also unceasingly lacerated by the immortal slaying diagram. Xiaolin Yue gave a shrill cry as her entire body was enveloped by the power of frost, resembling an ice sculpture. Traces of frigid qi emanated from her body, and even though the spectators were extremely far away, they could still feel it. Immortal slaying diagram? Xiaolin Yue let out a long howl. Her constellation shone brilliantly as a powerful freezing energy sealed this space, transforming it into a world of ice. She blasted out with both her palms, directly slamming into the immortal slaying diagram. That terrifying freezing energy seemed to be able to ignore the obstruction of energy and directly slammed into Qing causing Qing entire body to be corroded by the coldness. However, she was still as cold as ever. Her countenance didn't change at all. She slapped out with her palms as the light from the immortal slaying diagram grew even more intense, capable of destroying everything in this space. After which, Qing palms blasted outwards as the immortal slaying diagram shot out, lacerating everything in its path. Xiaolin Yue's countenance drastically changed as she retreated unceasingly. At the same time, she blasted out with her fists. However, she only saw Qing waving her hands as a blinding light flashed. The immortal slaying diagram transformed into countless patterns of light that slashed out, colliding with Xiaolin Yue's attack. Puchi. Fresh blood splashed out as Xiaolin Yue's palms were stained with blood. She stretched out both her palms as boundless freezing energy converged, blocking the attacks of the patterns of light. However, her body was still pierced through by the light, and when the attacks landed, Xiaolin Yue stood in the air. Although she was still as beautiful as ever, there was a sense of poignancy in her. Her entire body was covered in blood, looking extremely miserable. Xiaolin Yue was defeated in the end. Although Princess Qing doesn't show her face much, her strength is truly powerful. With the guidance of 2 immortal emperors, her ranking is above Xiaolin Yue's. The hearts of the spectators trembled when they saw the 2 supreme beauties in the air. It was truly rare to be able to witness a battle between 2 heavenly geniuses. Right now, they had no idea how terrifying Namhuang Yunxi's strength was. Bzz. Spatial energy enveloped Qing body. Her body trembled as divine inscriptions appeared beneath her feet. She vanished, only to see a resplendent spatial light abruptly appearing in front of Qing. The expression of Qing who appeared was ice cold. She lifted her palms and punched out once more. This punch contained the power to pierce through space, and with a flash of light, it directly blasted towards Xiaolin Yue. Victory and defeat have already been decided, yet she still wants to continue fighting. The expressions of the spectators froze. They could see the coldness radiating from this mysterious Princess Qing. Her gaze was extremely cold when she stared at Xiaolin Yue, and each of her attacks were merciless. Xiaolin Yue has always been searching for Qing because she wanted to defeat her and prove her own ranking in the Immortal Ascension rankings. However, it's possible that Princess Qing has never paid attention to Xiaolin Yue before. It's only because of Xiaolin Yue's earlier attack against Qin Wentian that caused this daughter of the Changqing the Great to be enraged. Although she doesn't say anything, her rage is clearly manifested in her attacks. This punch of Qing Er's was extremely tyrannical. Xiao Lingyue's countenance abruptly changed. She could also sense the anger contained within Qing Er's attack. This wasn't as simple as wanting to defeat her in a spar. Xiao Lingyue retreated explosively while unleashing a terrifying freezing energy. Her frozen extermination calamity finger collided with the spatial fist light, but the finger light was directly torn apart. The terrifying spatial shockwaves slammed into her, breaking through her defenses. However, this was merely the beginning. Qing Er's silhouette vanished once more, only leaving behind a beam of spatial light. That beam of light seemed to contain the power of teleportation. Another fist of spatial light blasted out, causing Xiao Linyue's countenance to change. She continued to defend, and in a short instant, the entire space was filled with golden beams of light. Qing Er's silhouette seemed to appear in every single location. What a tyrannical attack! This seems to be GD's style. It's rumored that GD is extremely proficient in spatial energy, and her attacks are incomparably violent. Many immortal emperors are in awe of her. Xiao Linyue's aura has already weakened, she's completely suppressed. I'm afraid she's going to be at a disadvantage. As expected, the boundless attacks caused Xiao Linyue to be incomparably frustrated. When another fist blasted out, she lifted her hand and stabbed out with a finger. However, this time around, Qing Er's silhouette didn't vanish. Instead, she directly rushed towards Xiao Linyue. The terrifying fist light didn't dissipate, it directly penetrated through everything. You! Xiao Linyue roared in rage. A terrifying energy gushed forth from her body, wanting to freeze this entire space. Qing Er's body was enveloped within, but right now, she only had a single fist that could penetrate through everything. Boundless fist lights stacked on top of one another, tearing apart the layers of space. Bang! A thunderous sound rang out. Xiao Linyue's body was about to be penetrated by that fist light. Qing Er's fist directly penetrated through everything, slamming into Xiao Linyue's body. Xiao Linyue. At this instant, the spectators were all shocked as they stared at the shocking scene before them. A bright light flashed as another silhouette directly walked out. Qing Er's body instantly froze. The immortal sense of the Xiao Emperor appeared, standing behind Xiao Linyue. Impudent! Who are you? How dare you be so ruthless? The immortal sense of the Xiao Emperor coldly snorted. Qing Er's gaze was as cold as ever. She stared at him, daughter of the evergreen immortal emperor, disciple of GD. Scram! You! The expression of the Xiao Emperor froze. He instantly thought of a junior, the beloved daughter of the evergreen immortal emperor. So it's the beloved daughter of the evergreen immortal emperor. However, isn't it a little too rude to have so many elders talking to you? You and Linyue are both training in the city of ancient emperors, why must you be so ruthless? The voice of the Xiao Emperor contained an intense imposingness, causing everyone to be speechless. The battle today had actually attracted the immortal senses of two immortal emperors. In addition, given Qing Er's status, even the Xiao Emperor wouldn't dare to go too far, right? If not, Qing Er would also have her own immortal sense protecting her. At the end of the day, the grudge between Qing Er and Xiao Linyue would still have to be resolved by themselves. You ask her what she did. Qing Er's expression was as cold as ever. The Xiao Emperor glanced at Xiao Linyue only to see that right now, Xiao Linyue's expression was extremely unsightly to behold. Not only was she defeated, she was utterly defeated. Even her father's immortal sense was activated. This was definitely a humiliating battle. Enough, if Linyue did anything overboard, I'll apologize on her behalf. As geniuses of the immortal realms, it's fine for us to stop here. Don't let your elders and I have too much enmity. I won't be able to stay in the city of ancient emperors for too long, so I'll bring her away now. In the future, don't do this again. The Xiao Emperor spoke as he brought Xiao Linyue away, vanishing from this location. Seems like even if the Xiao Emperor appeared, it wouldn't be good for him to bully juniors. Also, given Qing Er's status, it wasn't so easy to antagonize her. If a grudge was formed, given that Xiao Lingyue's strength was inferior to Qing Er, she would definitely be at a disadvantage in the city of ancient emperors. Chapter 923. Xiao Lingyue has left. The geniuses inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The leader of the Xiao sect, Xiao Lingyue, was ranked number 6 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. It wasn't a secret that she was searching for Qing Er in the city of ancient emperors. Many people knew about this. Xiao Lingyue wanted to defeat Qing Er and prove that she shouldn't be ranked behind Qing Er. However, she had lost this battle, and lost miserably. She was struck by Qing Er's terrifying spatial fist, and the protective immortal sense the Xiao Emperor had left on her was activated, allowing her to survive. The Xiao Emperor brought her away from this place. After all, according to the rules of the city of ancient emperors, he couldn't stay for too long. He couldn't interfere with the affairs of the city of ancient emperors. Staring at that cold figure in the air, the daughter of the Changqing the Great, the disciple of the southern matriarch Gd, she actually dared to act. Was all this because Xiao Lingyue had injured Qin Wentian? The relationship between Princess Qing Er and Qin Wentian seemed to be extraordinary. Because of that attack from Xiao Lingyue, Princess Qing Er didn't hesitate to offend Xiao Lingyue to the point of wanting to kill her. At this moment, many people couldn't help but feel curious. Qin Wentian, what was his identity? To think that he was actually worthy of Princess Qing Er's treatment. Sis Qing Xian, the more I look at Princess Qing Er, the more I feel that senior brother Qin and Princess Qing Er are a match made in heaven. No wonder senior brother Qin has been searching for her. Their relationship must be very deep, right? Jun Mengchen stared at Qing Er, who dared to kill the daughter of an immortal emperor for the sake of Qin Wentian. He couldn't help but feel gratified for his senior brother. Before this, Jun Mengchen was still thinking about what kind of woman his senior brother would find to be worthy of him. He was even worried that he would be disappointed and see a princess like Xiao Lingyue. But now, all his doubts were gone. He only wished Qin Wentian and the others well. However, at this moment, Qin Wentian was still in a standoff with Xian Yang. Qin Wentian's demon sword hummed unceasingly, causing the spectators below to retreat. The spear in Xian Yang's hand pierced out with heaven-shattering might, terrifying to the extreme. Both of them didn't dare to be distracted. Their control over their immortal weapons was weak, but the power they could unleash was terrifying. If they didn't go all out, the slightest distraction would give the other party an opportunity to launch a destructive attack. However, the two of them were very clear about the battle over there. Qing Er defeated Xiao Lingyue and the Xiao Emperor brought Xiao Lingyue away. The people of the Xiao sect didn't interfere at all. That was a battle that Xiao Lingyue had always been looking forward to. In addition, there were many geniuses who joined the Xiao sect not because they had a good relationship with Xiao Lingyue, but because of her status, her beauty, and her talent. When the other legendary Qing Er appeared, not only was her beauty not inferior to Xiao Lingyue's, but also her status. The people of the Xiao sect naturally wouldn't join in the battle against a peak-level beauty like Qing Er. In this battle, the alliance formed by the Xiao sect would most probably crumble apart. In addition to the fact that Qin Wentian had disregarded everything to kill Xian Xing, the grudge between him and Xian Yang had escalated to the level of a life-and-death grudge. In addition to that, the daughter of the Changqing the Great, Princess Qing Er, was also involved. The geniuses of the Twin Stars Alliance wouldn't easily join in to deal with Qin Wentian. In such a situation, even though Xian Yang was ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, he was still at a disadvantage. Xian Yang most probably won't be able to avenge Xian Xing, many people silently mused. Qing Er's appearance, in addition to her battle with Xiao Lingyue, as well as Qin Wentian's immortal vanquishing swordplay, had instantly turned the situation around. There's a limit to your strength, right? If I don't kill you today, you won't have a day of peace in the city of ancient emperors. Xian Yang finally spoke. Right now, the pressure Qin Wentian radiated was extremely terrifying. In addition to the fact that Princess Qing Er was beside him, it was impossible for him to kill Qin Wentian under such circumstances. Is that so? Qin Wentian laughed. You must have paid a heavy price to unleash that attack, right? Xian Yang's countenance was ice cold. So what if I don't kill you today? Even if you don't unleash that attack, it doesn't mean that I will spare you. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, a demonic wind ravaged the area. That destructive might abruptly gushed forth, and Qin Wentian's silhouette was like the wind, appearing before Xian Yang. The might of the immortal vanquishing swordplay was infused into the demon sword, and as its sharp claws slashed downwards, the demon's sword transformed into a fearsome great rock, emitting a terrifying sword keening as millions upon millions of sword qi gushed forth, gushing towards Xian Yang. He actually took the initiative to attack. Everyone's countenances were filled with shock. Xian Yang initially wanted to stop, temporarily giving up on Xian Xing. However, Qin Wendian didn't spare him, and chose to unleash a destructive attack instead. Roar! Xian Yang howled in rage, his long spear pierced through the air as countless ancient mirrors appeared. This spear strike of his manifested a tempest of slaughter, capable of destroying the heavens. Boom! The two forces collided, and in an instant, the destructive tempest engulfed the battlefield. The spectators only saw a beam of light piercing through the skies as the destructive astral winds slammed into their bodies. The spectators all retreated with explosive speed, but even the aftershocks from the collision were too much for them to bear. Another thunderous boom rang out, as dust rose into the air. The demon's sword whistled, and when everything dissipated, the spectators only saw a deep crater that was riddled with holes. Two silhouettes could be seen lying on the ground, and these two silhouettes were none other than Qin Wendian, who had reverted to his original appearance. Right now, he was lying on the ground, unable to move. His aura was extremely weak, and he no longer exuded the tyrannical aura he exuded earlier. Xian Yang naturally wasn't in a good state either. He was also lying on the ground, soaked in blood, and there were sword scars all over his body. Both sides were heavily injured in this clash. Their attacks had far surpassed the limits of their opponent's endurance. Just the destructive shockwaves alone were sufficient to heavily injure them. Not only that, Qin Wendian had to pay the price of immolating his body in order to use the immortal vanquishing swordplay. In truth, his attack was a level higher than Qin Wendian's, and he wasn't injured at all. But even so, the burden on his body was already too great. What an intense battle! It has been a very long time since there was such a battle in the city of ancient emperors. The spectators were all speechless. The main characters of this battle, the number 4, number 5 and number 6 rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings had all participated in it. And in the end, the number 6 ranker, Xiaoling Yue, was injured, and even the immortal sense of her father, the Xiao Emperor, had appeared. The number 4 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xian Yang, was heavily injured by Qin Wendian. As for his younger brother, the number 27 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xian Xing, was killed by Qin Wendian. Such a storm hadn't occurred in the city of ancient emperors for a very long time. This time around, it was triggered by the appearance of the god's hand. No wonder he was so fearless. If it wasn't for Xian Yang and Xian Xing standing in front of him, the Xiao sect would have to pay an extremely heavy price if they tried to seize the god's hand. The geniuses of the Xiao sect stared at the figure of Qin Wendian lying on the ground as their hearts trembled violently. Even for Greed Wolf, his heart was filled with complex emotions. This battle didn't only involve Qin Wendian. Chongqing the Great's daughter, Princess Qing, was also implicated. Not only that, Qin Wendian had defeated the woman he admired, Xiaoling Yue. Only to see that at this moment, Qing'er had already arrived beside Qin Wendian. She didn't say anything and directly carried Qin Wendian in her arms. Coldly glancing at Xian Yang, a powerful spatial energy enveloped her as her silhouette flickered, directly appearing in the air. After which, she transformed into a series of afterimages as she sped off into the distance. In this world, if one were to say who understood Qin Wendian the most, there was no doubt that the person would be Qing-er. She was too familiar with Qin Wendian, even more familiar than she was with herself. From the time when he was young in Chu, to the time when Qin Wendian grew up step by step, she had always been by his side, silently observing him. Other than Qin Wentian's experiences in the immortal realms, she knew everything about Qin Wentian's particle world, including what sort of energy Qin Wentian cultivated. She naturally knew that Qin Wentian was extremely weak now. Back then when Qin Wentian used the immortal vanquishing swordplay, it was she who took care of Qin Wentian until he recovered. This time around, she had no idea how long Qin Wentian would need to recuperate. Qing was very clear that unless there was no other choice, Qin Wentian wouldn't transform into a great rock and use the immortal vanquishing swordplay. During these years, Qin Wentian had only used it twice. The first time was in the Pil Emperor Hall, to save Mo Qingcheng. The second time was when he was in Grand Xia, facing the threat of several celestial phenomenon ascendants from the Chen clan as well as experts from the Pil Emperor Hall. This was the third time. Hence, Qing Er's heart was filled with rage. This was especially so when she saw Shaolin Yue sneak attacking Qin Wentian. Hence, her killing intent was ignited, not hesitating to kill the daughter of the Shao Emperor. However, at this moment, the only thing Qing was thinking about was Qin Wentian's injuries. She didn't care about anyone else and directly brought Qin Wentian away. Qin Wentian was the only person in her eyes. Senior brother. Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian froze. After which, Zi Qingxian transmitted her voice to Jun Mengchen, Princess Qing will take care of senior brother Qin. Let's go. Jun Mengchen also knew that it wasn't wise to stay in this place for too long. Hence, he and Zi Qingxian silently left the area. Regardless of the Shao sect or the Twin Stars Alliance, none of them paid any attention to them. Everyone was still immersed in that battle. Let's go. There's a high possibility that Princess Qing and Qin Wentian are lovers. Someone sighed. This scene caused many geniuses to feel envy and jealousy. From the looks of it, the possibility of them being lovers was the highest. To be able to have such a beautiful and talented woman as a wife, it was truly a joyous thing in life. However, it's rumored that the Chongqing the Great regards this daughter of his the most and is nurturing her as his successor. If Qin Wentian wants to marry Princess Qing, I'm afraid it won't be so easy. His talent is also extremely terrifying. Today's battle has already proven it. Not only that, he even obtained the god's hand. If his background is also compatible with Qing Er's, the evergreen immortal emperor wouldn't interfere too much. Don't think too much. Qin Wentian killed Xian Xing, leaving aside the fact that Xian Yang wouldn't spare him. The rage of the Xian emperor isn't something so easy to endure. How long can Qin Wentian live for? Another person spoke, causing the gazes of many to turn to Xian Yang. This number 4 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings was also extremely sullen today. He personally witnessed his younger brother being killed, and he was even heavily injured. In the City of Ancient Emperors, this battle was especially intense. In the future, I wonder if there would still be people who would try to snatch the god's hand. But even if they do, it wouldn't be so easy. The hearts of the spectators mused. Being able to witness such a soul-stirring battle today, it could be said that this trip wasn't made in vain. Chapter 924. In the City of Ancient Emperors, Qin Wentian's name began to spread. The daughter of the Chongqing the Great, the daughter of the Shao Emperor, and the 2 sons of the Xian Emperor were embroiled in this storm. Xian Xing had also died in battle. This news soon circulated, and several days later, the Immortal Ascension rankings in the City of Ancient Emperors no longer contained Xian Xing's name. Qin Wentian's name appeared on the Immortal Ascension rankings. His exact ranking was 100th. There were some who felt that Qin Wentian's ranking was too low. After all, he had personally killed the 27th ranked Xian Xing, and he didn't even have the aid of an immortal ranked weapon. Similarly, there were some who felt that Qin Wentian's ranking was too high. He was only at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon and only used some secret arts to increase his strength by leaps and bounds. This wasn't the strength he should have under normal circumstances, and there would definitely be side effects. These descendants of immortal kings and emperors all understood that this method of breaking the rules of cultivation and allowing stellar martial cultivators to jump levels would definitely have its limitations. Qin Wentian might have to pay a price for this. As for Qin Wentian's true combat prowess, he was still unable to familiarize himself with God's hand at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon. This was why he wasn't able to condense God's hand a second time after being shattered by the Xian Emperor. His strength was also unstable, and even if he borrowed the aid of God's hand, he would only be ranked around 100th. With regards to Qin Wentian's ranking on the Immortal Ascension rankings, there were many voices of dispute. Qin Wentian seemed to be different from the other geniuses. Most probably, even the person who set the rankings didn't know what to do with him. Hence, he was only ranked 100th, and there would definitely be changes in the future. However, Qin Wentian himself had no time to care about this. In fact, he didn't even know anything about it. In the city of ancient emperors, there was a mountain range that stretched on endlessly. It was incomparably mysterious, and for those who entered the city of ancient emperors, no one dared to say that they had explored the entire place. In the past, there were many geniuses who ventured into the depths of the mountain range, yet they all vanished without a trace. At this moment, on a certain mountain peak, there was a quiet place with steep cliffs and a waterfall. It was like an otherworldly place, free of all worldly disturbances. Surrounded by green peaks, there was a simple house. Outside the house were jagged rocks of strange shapes, and a cool breeze blew gently on the body. On top of a huge boulder, a beautiful figure could be seen calmly sitting there, quietly cultivating. She was like a fairy from a painting, mesmerizing people. After a while, the figure slowly stood up and turned around, looking at the person who was peacefully sleeping on the ground. This beautiful figure was naturally none other than Qing Er. As for the unconscious man, he was none other than Qin Wentian. Qing Er walked to the side of Qin Wentian and squatted down. She stared at his serene countenance, handsome and natural, as though he was completely at ease. It was as though after that strike, he wasn't worried at all that something unexpected would happen. It was as though he knew that there would definitely be someone who would bring him away safely. The cold expression on Qing Er's face gradually softened, as the coldness on her face vanished. A light breeze gusted by, causing her black hair to flutter, brushing past Qin Wentian's face. As she stared at him, many memories of the past flashed in Qing Er's eyes. In her eyes, a rarely seen warm smile actually appeared, exuding a sense of beauty. "Thank you for finding me so quickly." Qing Er's melodious voice resounded. After that, she slowly stretched out her hand. She was somewhat hesitant, but her soft and slender fingers were still moving towards Qin Wentian's face, gently caressing his gentle face. Her smile became even more beautiful and radiant. "Last time, you slept for so long. I wonder how long it will take for you to wake up this time," Qing Er said softly. But at this moment, a pair of clear and bright eyes suddenly opened. Qing Er's fingers trembled slightly, stopping on Qin Wentian's face. The smile on her face also stiffened. As though she suddenly regained her senses, Qing Er retracted her finger from Qin Wentian's face with lightning speed. She instantly stood up, and her expression returned to that icy cold one. Her clear voice rang out, "You're awake." "Qing Er, what are you doing?" A trace of a smile flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. He stared at the stunning silhouette. His smiling gaze made Qing Er a little nervous. She said, "Checking to see if you're feeling better." As she spoke, she turned around and walked forward. Her back was facing Qin Wentian, as though she didn't dare to look into Qin Wentian's eyes. A strange expression flashed in her beautiful eyes. Her face was also slightly red. But in an instant, she returned to normal, as though nothing had happened. "Qing Er." A voice resounded from behind. Qing Er turned around. Her beautiful eyes no longer showed any abnormalities. However, Qin Wentian didn't say anything. He merely stared at her quietly, the smile in his eyes was as clear as ever. Qing Er noticed that Qin Wentian was staring at her silently. She wanted to turn around, but she only heard Qin Wentian speaking in a low voice, "Qing Er, it wasn't easy to find you. Let me take a few more glances at you." Qing Er turned her gaze onto Qin Wentian. No one could tell what she was thinking from her clear eyes. After that, she spoke in a melodious voice, "Rest well and get well soon." After speaking, she turned and walked back to the gigantic boulder she was on earlier, standing there quietly. Qin Wentian stared at her back as a warm smile appeared on his face. After a long time, he slowly closed his eyes as he circulated the energy in his body. His body felt as though it had been sucked dry. The consumption of energy in that battle back then was simply too terrifying. First, he used God's hand to fight against so many experts. After that, he transformed into a great rock and was heavily injured. Finally, he used the immortal vanquishing swordplay and used the Black Punisher star to injure Xian Yang. After injuring Xian Yang, all the energy in his body was completely depleted. Luckily, his cultivation base was now higher and his self-recovery ability was stronger. In addition, as his cultivation base increased, the amplification of the immortal vanquishing swordplay might have decreased, but at the same time, the side effects were also lessened. It wasn't as terrifying as before. Time slowly flowed by. Qin Wentian quietly recovered from his injuries with Qing'er by his side. Right now, Qin Wentian could already move freely. At this moment, he was sitting on a gigantic boulder, cultivating. He had already been sitting there for 10 days and had yet to open his eyes. At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes finally opened. There was no sharpness in them, only tranquility and tranquility. The rays of the setting sun shone down, illuminating the entire mountain range with a layer of multicolored light. It was an extremely beautiful sight, and the sound of splashing water could be heard from the waterfall on the opposite side. A peerlessly beautiful figure walked out from the waterfall. Her long black hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall, dripping wet. She was clad in a thin green robe that accentuated her curves perfectly. Under the illumination of the multicolored light, she exuded a saintly beauty, causing Qin Wentian to be somewhat mesmerized by her beauty. Qing'er also discovered Qin Wentian. When she walked over, she saw Qin Wentian's dumbfounded expression. Cold, she stared at Qin Wentian as a peculiar light flickered in her beautiful eyes. After that, she walked past Qin Wentian and walked towards the small house, leaving behind a refreshing fragrance. "What a beautiful scenery," Qin Wentian murmured. A cold wind brushed past. Qin Wentian turned his head and saw Qing'er's silhouette standing there, glaring at him. "Qing'er, you look so beautiful even when you're angry." Qin Wentian stretched his waist as he joked. His skin was truly thick. Could it be that Qing'er would make a move against him? Shameless. Qing'er spat out 2 words, but in the eyes of Qin Wentian, it was extremely pleasing to the ears. Smiling at Qing'er, Qin Wentian casually replied, "Qing'er, if you can be like this for the rest of your life, it would be a beautiful thing in the world." "Where's Qingcheng?" Qing'er's cold voice rang out, causing Qin Wentian to be stunned. He stared at Qing'er in astonishment. He didn't expect that Qing'er would actually say Qingcheng's name at this moment. Seeing the expression on Qin Wentian's face, Qing'er lowered her head and fell into silence. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. He stared at Qing'er's expression as he gently spoke, "Qing'er, I can't let Qingcheng down, but I won't let you down either." It was rare for Qin Wentian to express his attitude so straightforwardly. He knew that it was time for him to make a promise to Qing'er. Earlier, Qin Wentian told Qing'er that if she could be like this for the rest of her life, it would be a beautiful thing in the world. The first thing Qing'er mentioned was Qingcheng. From this, it could be seen that in Qing'er's heart, she had already regarded Qin Wentian as her lover. Otherwise, not only did she not refute him, she even mentioned Qingcheng. Clearly, in Qing'er's heart, she had always been thinking about it. Moreover, although Qing'er didn't speak much, her every action undoubtedly indicated that she was in a relationship with Qin Wentian. She had always been here silently taking care of him and didn't leave even half a step. Even when she went to the waterfall to take a bath, she didn't avoid Qin Wentian when she came back. To be able to do this, Qing'er had already treated him as the closest person to her. Qin Wentian could clearly sense the gentleness in her every action, as well as the affection behind it. Qin Wentian's voice caused Qing'er to start. She stood there in a daze, as though surprised that Qin Wentian would suddenly say such a thing. After which, she turned and walked back to the room as she spoke in a low voice, "You better increase your strength as soon as possible. Qingsheng should have already waited for you for many years." After speaking, Qing'er stepped into the room and didn't come out again. Qin Wentian stared at the room as a bitter smile appeared on his face. Qing'er was still the same. However, was this an agreement, or an agreement? Or was it a tacit agreement? Who? Drawing in a deep breath, Qin Wentian stared at the sky. This time around, he did his best to raise his cultivation base to the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. However, how long more would he need to reach the immortal realm? Was Qingsheng still doing well? In the room, Qing'er quietly lay there, staring at the ceiling in a daze. At this moment, her heart was pounding, and she felt a rare sense of nervousness. Only after a while did her state of mind gradually calm down. Only to see Qing'er's beautiful eyes blinking as a warm smile gradually appeared on her face. She slowly closed her eyes, and a faint blush could be seen on her face. Her beauty was so beautiful that it could move one's soul. Sadly, Qin Wentian had no way to enjoy such a beautiful scene. Chapter 925. Qin Wentian spent many days in front of the waterfall, with beauties by his side. Although it was tranquil, he didn't feel lonely at all. Qing'er didn't like to talk as usual. However, when Qin Wentian teased her occasionally, he would notice the subtle changes in her expression. It was a joyful thing, hence, he didn't feel lonely at all. Half a year had already passed since the battle. Qin Wentian's body had completely recovered and his cultivation base had advanced a step further, stepping into the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. He was only a single step away from the peak of the celestial phenomenon realm, the 9th level. It was as though he could already faintly see the immortal realm. In the evening, a cool breeze blew gently. Qin Wentian stood before the waterfall, comprehending the innate techniques of his innate techniques. At this moment, a gust of wind gusted by as a gray-colored silhouette flashed past him. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered as he abruptly halted his cultivation. Little Rascal who was beside him also sped towards the void, as though it had discovered something as well. "Someone's there." Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he soared into the air like a wind rock. He saw a white-robed silhouette standing on top of a rock in front of him. Her thin white robes fluttered in the wind as her long hair fluttered in the wind. That graceful figure was flawless, and just by looking at her back, one could tell that she was an absolute beauty. This caused a strange expression to appear on Qin Wentian's face. Could this be Nam Huang Yunxi? Wait, she actually doesn't have any aura at all. Qin Wentian suddenly discovered that he actually couldn't sense her aura at all. "Who might you be?" Qin Wentian asked. "Bzz." Her silhouette flickered as she sped forward like a white specter, leaving behind faint afterimages in the air. What a fast speed! Qin Wentian silently mused. After which, Little Rascal's silhouette flickered as it followed after her. A strange expression appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he also moved forward. Behind them, a beautiful figure walked out of the house. Seeing Qin Wentian's figure flickering away, she couldn't help but release spatial energy. She took a step forward and disappeared. Not long after, Qin Wentian and Little Rascal lost track of that person. The speed of that person was simply too fast, like a phantom. Underworld Mountain. Qing'er followed. Seeing the road ahead, her expression changed slightly. Qing'er, what kind of place is Underworld Mountain? Qin Wentian asked curiously. The forbidden ground of the city of ancient emperors, there are many geniuses who have entered the depths of the underworld mountains, but none of them managed to exit. Up ahead is the entrance of the underworld mountains. Qing'er pointed to the front. Qin Wentian took a closer look and found that there seemed to be an arched mountain there, which seemed to isolate the mountain range from the rest of the world, giving off a cold aura. That person entered the underworld mountains? Qin Wentian murmured. Woo! Little Rascal let out a low growl. Qin Wentian stared at him and asked, Little Rascal, what's wrong? Summoning, I can feel the aura of a summoning. Little Rascal's voice was filled with a solemn tone, causing Qin Wentian's expression to stiffen. Little Rascal could feel the aura of a summoning? Let's go in and take a look, Qin Wentian spoke. After which, he turned to Qing, go back and wait for me. Qing, cast a cold glance at Qin Wentian. Upon seeing her gaze, Qin Wentian smiled, let's go in together then. Be careful. As the sound of his voice faded, Little Rascal directly dashed out. Qin Wentian and Qing followed closely behind. It's rumored that the underworld mountains are also a ruin left behind by an ancient emperor. However, this ancient emperor was extremely ruthless. Up till now, many geniuses have died in the underworld mountains, but nobody knows which ancient emperor he was. Yet, there are still people who dare to enter the underworld mountains, Qing explained, as though reminding Qin Wentian. After entering the underworld mountains, there seemed to be only a single passageway. The air was filled with a cold and gloomy aura, causing people to feel somewhat cold. Little Rascal's speed slowed down. Its body was trembling slightly, as though it was filled with fear. This was the first time Qin Wentian saw Little Rascal in such a state. He could feel the summoning aura, but he was also extremely afraid. What kind of power was this summoning? A low growl rang out from Little Rascal's mouth. Its body abruptly sprinted forward, rushing towards a canyon ahead. Little Rascal. Qin Wentian could sense the nervousness and impulsiveness in Little Rascal's heart. There was an indescribable force guiding it. It's very dangerous inside, Qing reminded when she saw Qin Wentian following behind. Qing you go back first, Qin Wentian spoke again, his countenance turning solemn. Since the underworld mountains were known as the forbidden grounds of the city of ancient emperors, there would definitely be an intense danger. However, he couldn't ignore Little Rascal, nor could he place Qing in danger. My spatial abilities can bring you away at critical moments. Also, my body is protected by my immortal sense. Qing stared at Qin Wentian, shaking her head. Given Qing's personality, it was impossible for Qin Wentian to persuade her. Fine. Once you encounter danger, you have to leave immediately, Qin Wentian solemnly instructed. Okay. Qing nodded her head. After which, Qin Wentian sped ahead. He could sense Little Rascal's location. Very swiftly, they passed through the canyon. There were many strange-looking ancient mountains here, each of them so tall that they touched the heavens. An extremely cold aura permeated the air. Little Rascal. Qin Wentian continued forward. Inclining his head, he stared at the peak of a lonely mountain, only to see the silhouette of Little Rascal standing there. The night sky gradually darkened, and the silhouette of Little Rascal resembled a lone wolf as it surveyed its surroundings. Bzz, a gust of wind gusted by. On another mountain, a white-robed figure appeared. Qin Wentian stared at this figure, it was none other than the mysterious woman he met before. Fog suddenly rose up from the mountain range, rising unceasingly, enveloping the entire sky. What's going on? Qin Wentian discovered that even with his powerful eyesight, his vision was greatly obstructed. The entire area seemed to be enveloped by a mysterious black fog. An instant later, when the fog gradually dissipated, Qin Wentian's countenance drastically changed. The scenery in this space had completely changed. Although there were still ancient mountains, they were even darker. Furthermore, the ancient mountains were no longer the same as before. It was as if they had entered a different space in an instant, and they clearly hadn't moved at all. Underworld mountains, Qing whispered. Is this the true underworld mountains? Qin Wentian murmured. It seemed that although Qing knew that the underworld mountains were a forbidden ground in the city of ancient emperors, she didn't know much about it. When night fell, the true underworld mountains would appear in this mountain range. That's. At this moment, Qin Wentian stared at the foot of the mountain range, and his expression froze. After which, he surveyed the underworld mountains and discovered many corpses. The coldness in the air grew colder and colder, as though there was a unique energy present. Qin Wentian's aura began to dissipate, as though it was being stripped away from his body bit by bit. What's going on? Qin Wentian stretched out his hands. The underworld mountains were actually able to forcefully strip away the energy in one's body. He glanced at Qing only to discover that Qing had also sensed it. Oh! Little rascal let out another long howl. Its body expanded in size, and it was actually able to devour the energy in the air, unaffected by it. Little rascal. Qin Wentian stared at Little Rascal. At this instant, the white-robed figure abruptly flickered, directly appearing in front of Little Rascal. Qin Wentian's countenance changed as he sped towards the white-robed figure. Sir, who are you? Qin Wentian icily asked. The white-robed figure inclined her head and stared at him. Qin Wentian saw a face so beautiful that it was suffocating. This kind of demonic beauty didn't have the slightest hint of charm. Her eyes were devoid of emotions, yet they contained a terrifying might, as though she was a peak-level expert. There was no aura emanating from her, as though she wasn't a living person at all. Similarly, she wasn't affected by the underworld mountains. Since she had no aura, her energy naturally wouldn't be drained away. Are you a human or a ghost? This was the first time Qin Wentian encountered such an existence. An existence that had no aura, no matter how strong one was. Even if it was the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, although he didn't release his aura, the aura of a human would still exist. Qin Wentian stood in front of her. If he didn't see her with his own eyes, he wouldn't even be able to sense her existence. The gaze of the female shifted away, landing on Little Rascal once more. After which, she directly walked towards Little Rascal's body. A scene that caused Qin Wentian to be horrified appeared. Her body didn't seem corporeal, she actually wanted to fuse with Little Rascal's body. Roar! Little Rascal let out howls of agony as his body struggled violently. Scram! Qin Wentian took out his immortal rank long spear and directly pierced towards the female's body. However, the long spear directly penetrated through the body of the mysterious female, there was no effect at all. Spectre! Qin Wentian's countenance grew unsightly. Little Rascal continued howling as his body trembled even more violently. Boom! All the energy in Little Rascal's body erupted forth in an instant. The silhouette of the female trembled violently as though she was in a state of discomfort. He's afraid of the flames of your bloodline. Little Rascal shouted. The blood in Qin Wentian's body surged as his entire body glowed with a terrifying white flame. He pointed his finger at Little Rascal, and bzzz a raging wind gusted by. That ghost-like figure directly separated from Little Rascal's body as she coldly stared at Qin Wentian. Little Rascal had always been raised by Qin Wentian using his bloodline. There was also a trace of Qin Wentian's bloodline power in his body. Earlier when he unleashed his full strength, he discovered that this mysterious female was afraid of his bloodline power. That female coldly stared at Qin Wentian. After which, she abruptly moved towards Qing's body. In just an instant, it felt as though her body was about to fuse together with Qing's. Qin Wentian's countenance drastically changed. He pointed his finger out once more, only to see that figure reappearing again. She stood in front of them, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Chapter 926. Netherworld Body. Qing stared at the white-robed figure in front of her. She seemed to have heard her master mentioning this ability before. It seemed to be the innate ability of a female immortal emperor from the northern domain. Could it be that this devilishly beautiful maiden had something to do with that great character? A look of bewilderment appeared on Qin Wentian's face. It seemed like Qing knew something about this. The silhouette of the white-robed maiden flickered as she vanished from sight. Little Rascal turned his gaze to the horizons before he spoke to Qin Wentian. I can feel a summoning energy growing stronger and stronger. You guys can return first. The countenance of Qin Wentian and Qing flickered. The energy in their bodies was slowly dissipating. It was truly dangerous to remain here for too long. Also, now that the space around them had changed, it wouldn't be so easy for them to exit the underworld mountains. That mysterious figure is extremely dangerous. Qin Wendian spoke to Little Rascal. He was worried as well. Bzzz, at this moment, Little Rascal sped towards a certain direction. He rushed into a crevice in the mountain range, and there seemed to be a completely different world within. On both sides of the crevice, there were blood-colored runes engraved on the walls, looking extremely terrifying. The Netherworld Maiden also arrived here. She stared ahead as she stepped into the crevice, wanting to barge through it directly. However, the runes on the walls of the crevice lit up, transforming into a terrifying energy that slammed into her, causing her to be bounced back. Qin Wendian stared ahead. He only felt the runic inscriptions on the mountain rampart transforming into a terrifying energy, instantly causing his entire body to tremble violently. After which, a thunderous boom rang out as a towering and terrifying intent manifested in his mind, wanting to kill him. Retreat. Qin Wendian pulled Qing along as he retreated. This place was extremely dangerous, but at this moment, Qin Wendian saw Little Rascal walking into the crevice. Boundless runic light shone on him, yet he actually wasn't destroyed. Qin Wendian saw Little Rascal walking step by step towards the depths of the mountain. Although his steps were slow, he didn't stop. This made him feel that there was a mysterious energy calling out to him. That mysterious woman coldly glanced at Qin Wendian and Qing'er. She seemed to be somewhat resentful. After which, her silhouette flickered and disappeared. It seemed like she couldn't enter this place. Let's go back too. Qing said in a crisp voice. Qin Wendian nodded. Yes, the little guy seems to have his own destiny. Let's find a way out. The underworld mountain was like an aurora, filled with a mysterious aura. However, it seemed to be an independent space with no way out. Qing took out a treasure that exuded an intense spatial energy. It resembled a leaf. Qing waved her hands, causing the leaf to enlarge. Both Qing and Qin Wendian walked up to it. Momentarily, an intense spatial glow enveloped the two of them. This is a life-saving treasure given to me by my master. This underworld mountain is a mysterious space. Spatial treasures should be able to penetrate it. As the sound of Qing's voice faded, a brilliant light flashed as the leaf transformed into a beam of light, shooting towards a certain direction. Qin Wendian closed his eyes. He held on to Qing's hand, only to see that Qing's hand was exceptionally soft. Her hand trembled lightly, but she didn't evade, allowing Qin Wendian to hold on to her hand. Qin Wendian only felt as though he was shuttling through space. The spatial energy contained within this treasure was too terrifying, causing him to feel somewhat uncomfortable. The two of them held onto each other tightly, and an intense tremor ran through their bodies. They stopped, and when they opened their eyes, Qin Wendian discovered that they had already arrived at the central region of the City of Ancient Emperors. We're out. What a powerful treasure. Qin Wendian silently mused. Being trapped in the underworld mountain, a treasure like this was much more useful compared to the strength of a human. Many people below inclined their heads and stared at the two who suddenly appeared in the air. Strange expressions appeared on their faces as their gazes landed on Qing. Spatial energy. Could it be the number 5 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Princess Qing? Someone murmured. In the battle half a year ago, there was a high possibility that Princess Qing and Qin Wendian were lovers. Now that they were holding hands, there was a high possibility that the two of them were Princess Qing and Qin Wendian. Qing wanted to retract her hand, but Qin Wendian held onto it tightly. She blinked and stared at Qin Wendian. Why are you still not letting go? Oh. Qin Wendian smiled, and reluctantly released his hand. He couldn't help but squeeze it a little, causing Qing to stare at him. However, Qin Wendian acted as though nothing had happened. He continued, the underworld mountain is truly mysterious. I wonder what it is exactly. Seeing that Qin Wendian was intentionally changing the topic, Qing could only turn her gaze away, ignoring him. It's been half a year, I wonder how Meng Chen and Qing Xian are doing, Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. Are you Qin Wentian? Someone below heard Qin Wentian's voice, as they stared at Qin Wentian. That's me, Qin. Qin Wentian nodded. Are you talking about your junior brother Jun Mengchen and junior sister Zi Qingxian? They're not having a good time now, the Twin Stars Alliance is hunting them down everywhere. If it weren't for their luck, they would have been captured, that person spoke. Qin Wentian's expression sank as his gaze turned cold. Sir, do you know where they are now? If I knew, the people of the Twin Stars Alliance would have long since known. But I'm sure they're hiding somewhere. The Twin Stars Alliance today is no longer the same as before. They're now the #1 power in the city of ancient emperors, and their strength is terrifying to the extreme, that person stated. Qin Wentian asked in bewilderment, that battle back then should have weakened their strength a little, right? How can they still be called the #1 power? Do you still not know? Half a year ago, you unleashed that sword of destruction, and you should have paid a heavy price for it, right? The Twin Stars Alliance has indeed been weakened, and the Xiao sect is on the verge of collapse. However, Xian Yang and Xiaoling Yue have formed an alliance, and the Twin Stars Alliance and the Xiao sect can be considered to have formed an alliance as well. The #4 and #6 rankers of the City of Ancient Emperors rankings have formed their own power, becoming the new Twin Stars Alliance. Many geniuses from the City of Ancient Emperors also joined them, making it even more terrifying. That person continued. Qin Wentian started to worry for Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian. The Twin Stars Alliance and the Xiao sect were both ranked in the top 3. Not only so, the Twin Stars Alliance has also issued a bounty. If anyone manages to find you, Qin Wentian, or your 2 friends, there will be a heavy reward. I'm afraid there are already people reporting this to the Twin Stars Alliance, another person laughed. I, Qin Wentian, have also issued a bounty. If anyone manages to find my friends, inform me immediately. I'll reward them with 5 immortal ranked weapons, Qin Wentian stated. Really? The person who spoke earlier had a meaningful smile on his face. Qin Wentian nodded. I, Qin, will definitely keep my word. Fine, take out the 5 immortal ranked weapons and I'll tell you where they are right now, that person spoke. Momentarily, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stared at him. You really know? You and Princess Qing, even killed Xian Xing and heavily injured Xian Yang. Do you think I'd dare to lie to you? That person continued laughing, a sinister smile could be seen on his face. Qin Wentian, I advise you to hurry up. If not, if they encounter any mishaps, BZZ. Qin Wentian waved his hands as 5 immortal ranked weapons flew out, flying towards that person. His gaze was incomparably sharp, he knew that this person knew of Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingshuan's whereabouts and wanted to extort him. But so what of it? There were no mediocre people in the City of Ancient Emperors. Everyone here was a descendant of immortal kings and emperors, and this person had no connection with him at all. Straightforward. That person waved his hand, keeping the immortal ranked weapons. After that, he pointed to a direction and spoke, follow this direction and continue forward. When you see a tower-shaped building, you will see traces of a battle there. Let's hope you can still make it in time if you rush there now. Qing, let's go. A wind rock rune bone appeared in Qin Wentian's hand. Instantly, a raging wind enveloped him and Qing, as they sped towards the direction pointed out by the other party. Traces of a battle, this meant that Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingshuan's whereabouts had already been exposed. Even if the other party didn't say anything, they would know about it soon. Hold on. Qin Wentian had a look of worry on his face. That person didn't lie to Qin Wentian. In the direction Qin Wentian and the others were heading towards, there was a pagoda with many experts gathered in front of it, as though they were spectating a battle. There were 5 geniuses surrounding 2 people, and the battle had already lasted for quite some time. The 2 of them were extremely weak, the female was only at the 8th level of celestial phenomenon, and it seemed that she hadn't broken through for too long. As for the pretty-looking young man, he was only at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon, and both of them were already injured. Of the 5 opponents, 3 were at the 8th level and 2 were at the 9th level. One of them was even a ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Tu Teng. He was extremely powerful. Those who could rank on the Immortal Ascension rankings were all characters who stood at the very peak. Tu Teng was over 3 meters tall and had a gigantic physique. He was bare-chested, and his bronze-colored skin exuded a sense of strength. He was one of the strongest warriors in the Twin Stars Alliance. Still putting up a last-ditch struggle. Tu Teng watched as Ziqingxian transformed into a terrifying divine falcon. The light of the divine falcon illuminated all 8 directions, and she was still madly clashing against a 9th-level ascendant. Tu Teng stepped out as his constellation manifested in the air, manifesting numerous gigantic axes that could cleave the heavens and earth apart. Tu Teng waved his hands as a gigantic golden heaven-cleaving axe manifested. He ferociously cleaved downwards, and in an instant, millions of gigantic axes slashed out, capable of cleaving apart the heavens and earth, capable of destroying everything. Master Tu Teng's heaven-cleaving axe art is said to be able to cleave apart the heavens and earth when cultivated to the extreme. When the experts saw Tu Teng acting, they knew that these two wouldn't be able to continue struggling. Initially, Tu Teng thought that the 4 chosen would be able to defeat them very quickly, but he didn't expect that these 2 fellows would still be able to continue fighting after such a long period of time. Ziqingxuan's countenance turned incredibly unsightly when she saw this scene. The might of this attack caused her heart to tremble. A shrill cry rang out as the countless divine falcons flew towards the heaven-cleaving axe, slashing apart one after another. A gigantic golden flame divine falcon appeared, blocking in front of the gigantic axe. However, Tu Teng's constellation continued blasting downwards as the gigantic axe continued cleaving downwards, directly cleaving apart the divine falcon. Pooh! Ziqingxuan's countenance turned pale as she directly coughed out a mouthful of blood. Her body was flung through the air as her aura grew increasingly weak. Senior sister! Jun Mengchen roared in rage. However, with 3 8th-level ascendants ganging up on him, he couldn't even take care of himself. How could he help Ziqingxian? Chapter 927. Jun Mengchen was in a state of rage. The clear sky worldly diagram shone brightly in the air as his body was clad in king armor. Each of his attacks contained the aura of a king, borrowing the power of an ancient king. However, he was currently surrounded by 3 8th-level ascendants. In the city of ancient emperors, all of them were descendants of immortal kings and emperors. Their cultivation arts and innate techniques were all extremely powerful, and it was already extremely difficult for them to jump levels to fight, let alone fighting against 3. Jun Mengchen's roars shook the heavens, but he still couldn't break free from the encirclement of the 3. He was being suppressed by them, and there was also the 9th-level ascendant who fought against Ziqingxian earlier. Tu Teng walked step by step towards the injured Ziqingxian. Every step he took caused the earth to tremble. When he saw the ruthlessness in Ziqingxuan's eyes, he couldn't help but to speak coldly, "It's best not to borrow the power of a divine weapon. I won't take your life, I only want to capture you. But if you borrow the power of an immortal weapon, the consequences would be unimaginable." Ziqingxuan's beautiful eyes flickered as her expression turned incredibly unsightly. The strength of the 2 of you isn't bad, being able to endure for so long is truly impressive. But no matter how much you struggle, it's useless. Just leave with me. I won't torture such a beauty like you. Tu Teng's silhouette flickered as he moved closer to Ziqingxian. Ziqingxuan's body flashed once more, but Tu Teng only snorted coldly and blasted out with his palms. His palms were as sharp as a giant axe, directly grabbing onto Ziqingxuan's body and lifting her up. If you continue to be dishonest, don't blame me for being ruthless to women. Tu Teng coldly spoke. After which, he turned to Jun Mengchen and spoke to the people beside him, "Quickly capture him. 5 of you bullying 2 people a level lower than you. Don't you feel any shame?" At this moment, a faint voice drifted out from the crowd. It seemed that this voice belonged to a genius who was spectating from the side. It's best not to interfere in our matters. Tu Ting's gaze swept over, staring at the person who spoke. This person was a slender and handsome young man. His countenance was calm, but his eyes gave off a demonic feeling. It was as though his eyes could revolve, resembling a whirlpool, causing the gazes of others to be sucked into it. Zi Qingxian was captured by Tu Ting. She stared at the person who spoke as a strange light flickered in her eyes. She actually recognized this person. Also, she was somewhat taken aback that this person would actually step out to speak. The silhouette of the young man who spoke flickered as he directly entered Jun Mengchen's battlefield. His eyes grew even more terrifying, exuding a demonic aura, akin to a pair of eyes of reincarnation. With a single glance, the three geniuses surrounding Jun Mengchen all felt countless scenes flashing through their minds. Their attacks involuntarily faltered. Be careful of his eyes. Tu Ting roared, his voice shaking everyone's hearts. The three of them immediately closed their eyes, but the scene in their minds remained the same, as if they had fallen into an illusion. The person who attacked was actually Hua Taishu. Boom! Jun Mengchen seized the opportunity and blasted out with a chaotic World King fist, directly blasting one of them through the air. He then dashed towards Tu Ting as he roared in rage, "Release my senior sister." Tu Ting swept his gaze over to Jun Mengchen before turning his gaze onto Hua Taishu. His gaze was still as demonic as ever, and the two 8th level ascendants turned silent under his gaze. Tu Ting, you haven't captured him yet. At this moment, a few more figures arrived. One of them was a genius of the Shao sect, an expert on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xia Qianhan. There's still one more. Tu Ting stared at Jun Mengchen as he spoke, "What's the point of struggling? The disparity between us is too great. Even if you have helpers, they are merely at the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. They can't threaten me at all. Release them." At this moment, a cold voice drifted over. Tu Ting furrowed his brows. After which, he saw a hurricane gusting by as two silhouettes appeared in the air. It was a pair of immortal companions. "Senior brother!" Jun Mengchen called out. The countenances of Tu Ting, Xia Qianhan, and the other geniuses of the Twin Stars Alliance turned heavy. Qin Wentian and Princess Qing had appeared. This matter was going to be troublesome. Qing was ranked number 5 on the Immortal Ascension rankings and had defeated Shaolin Yue before. "Release them." Qin Wentian stared at Tu Ting as he coldly spoke. Tu Ting stared at the sharpness in Qin Wentian's eyes as a wild light gleamed in them. He then spoke, "Qin Wentian, I heard that you've cultivated the God's hand. I really wish to experience it for myself. Can you grant me some guidance?" "I'll grant you your wish." As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, cracking sounds rang out. His body abruptly expanded in size as resplendent runic light circulated around him. His palms shone with a dazzling light as a terrifying aura gushed forth. The god's hand appeared, exuding an indomitable aura. Qin Wentian expanded his body so that the god's hand would be more compatible with his palms. "You guys help me guard her." Tu Ting passed Zi Qingxian to Xia Qianhan and the others. A sharp sword was pressed against Zi Qingshuan's neck. Xia Qianhan then spoke to Tu Ting, "We should retreat now." "No, how can I be satisfied if I don't experience the might of the god's hand?" Tu Ting released his constellation as he stepped out, staring straight at Qin Wentian. Boom! Only to see Tu Ting stepping out as he blasted out with the heaven-splitting axe art. A beam of light descended from the skies, capable of splitting the heavens and earth apart. Boundless axe light slashed towards Qin Wentian, wanting to cleave Qin Wentian into two. Qin Wentian abruptly lifted his palms and blasted out. A moment later, a terrifying gigantic palm imprint blasted towards the heaven-splitting axe, directly destroying it. At the same time, Qin Wentian's silhouette was like the wind as he grabbed out with his palms. An incomparably gigantic palm imprint shone with boundless runic light as a deafening boom rang out, incomparably suppressive. Just a single strike had destroyed Tu Ting's confidence. His countenance turned ashen as boundless astral light from his constellation enveloped him. He spun in the air as the runic light slashed out once more. However, that gigantic palm imprint directly destroyed everything as it slammed towards him. Tu Ting roared in rage and blasted out with both his palms. However, the star-seizing palm imprint blasted towards him. With a thunderous boom, Tu Ting felt as though his entire body was about to explode. It was unknown how many bones in his body were broken. Qin Wentian's silhouette whistled through the air as he stabbed out with God's hand. This finger pierced through the air, directly piercing into Tu Ting's sturdy body. At this instant, boundless sword qi gushed forth from Tu Ting's body. A miserable scream rang out as Tu Ting's body slammed into the ground. Although he wasn't directly killed, his aura was extremely weak. It was as though all his internal organs had been destroyed. What a powerful ultimate art! Qin Wentian's cultivation base has already broken through to the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. No wonder he's so terrifying. Tu Teng is also a ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, yet he couldn't even withstand a single strike. The spectators felt their hearts trembling. This was too powerful. This attack by Qin Wentian had almost taken away half of Tu Teng's life. Evidently, Tu Teng was enraged when he saw Zi Qingxian in his hands. In this case, Tu Teng would need at least a year to recuperate in the City of Ancient Emperors. God's Hand, a long-lost ultimate art. Back then when Qin Wentian fought against Xian Yang and the others, many people here didn't manage to witness it. Now that they personally witnessed how powerful God's Hand was, it would be a lie if they said they didn't feel an urge to snatch it away. Who wouldn't want such an ultimate art? Hua Taishu was also slightly taken aback. He stared in bewilderment at Qin Wentian and Qing Er. The two of them came from particle worlds and now, they were already rising up in the City of Ancient Emperors. Qin Wentian's attacks had always been extremely powerful. And now, in addition to the rumored God's Hand, he was even stronger. At this moment, Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto Xia Qianhan. His eyes gleamed with sharpness as he icily spoke, "Release her. If you want her back, I'm afraid you have to follow me to the Twin Stars Alliance." Xia Qianhan held Zi Qingxian hostage as he stared at Qin Wentian. When he saw Qin Wentian's strength, he felt extremely unhappy in his heart. Back then when Qin Wentian first joined the Shao sect, he couldn't even be bothered with Qin Wentian. But now, with Qin Wentian's strength in addition to God's Hand, he could already defeat him. "If you don't release her today, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave this place alive." Qin Wentian spoke. "Are you going to joke around with her life?" Xia Qianhan stared at Zi Qingxian. "If anything happens to her, you will have to pay with your life." Qin Wentian stepped out, as well as Qing Er. The two of them walked towards Xia Qianhan and the rest, and every step they took caused the hearts of Xia Qianhan and the rest to tighten. "Release her and I guarantee you all will leave. I've already revealed myself, if Xian Yang wants to find me, he can do so anytime. If the Twin Stars Alliance still dares to use such despicable methods, I, Qin, will definitely slaughter them all." Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Nobody doubted his words. Daring to kill the people of Xian Xing in public, Qin Wentian had already proven his madness. Boom! Another step was taken. Qin Wentian and Qing Er walked side by side, giving Xia Qianhan an immense pressure. Should he release her or not? Do you really not care about her life or death? A sharp blade had already left a line of blood on Zi Qingshuan's neck. Is this how the geniuses of the Twin Stars Alliance act? Qin Wentian laughed. If I allow you to capture my teacher and bring her to the Twin Stars Alliance, who knows what would happen? I, Qin, will never agree to it. If you want to fight to the death, I'll exchange my life for yours. Xia Qianhan's entire body tensed up as her aura gushed forth frenziedly. Qin Wentian and Qing Er got closer, only to see a terrifying might radiating from Qin Wentian's hands. God's Hand gleamed with a supreme spear light, while Qing Er radiated a fearsome spatial energy. Qingxian, if you die, I will definitely make them accompany you in death. The wings behind Qin Wendian flickered, as though he was about to launch an attack of death. Zi Qingxian stared at Qin Wendian as she spoke, make your move. Xia Qianhan stared fixedly at Qin Wendian's god's hand, his heart pounding. I will release her. Xia Qianhan's countenance turned ashen. Upon seeing Qin Wendian lifting his god's hand, he finally relented, but you have to dissipate the energy of God's hand first. I agree. Qin Wendian's voice rang out as he directly dissipated the energy of God's hand, returning it to normal. Upon seeing this scene, Xia Qianhan also released Zi Qingxian. He didn't dare to risk his life. Qin Wendian's identity had already been exposed. If he wanted revenge, Xian Yang would naturally come looking for him. Although he was unhappy with Qin Wendian, there was no need for him to risk his life. Chapter 928. Zi Qingxian broke free from Xia Qianhan's control and walked towards Qin Wendian. She didn't say anything, but when she stared at Qin Wendian, her gaze flickered with a strange light. Are you alright? Qin Wendian asked. Just some minor injuries, nothing serious. Zi Qingxian shook her head. She glanced at Qin, who was beside Qin Wendian before walking to Qin Wendian's side. Qin Wendian swept his gaze over to Xia Qianhan and the others, his eyes gleaming with sharpness as he coldly spoke, scram. Xia Qianhan's aura fluctuated as an intense light flickered in his eyes. He wanted nothing more than to fight it out with Qin Wendian. Although he didn't have much of a chance against Qin Wendian who had the god's hand, Qin Wendian had already dissipated the energy of God's hand. It was unknown if he still had the ability to condense God's hand a second time. At the very least, he could only condense it once before the Xian Emperor shattered it. But now, not only was Qin Wendian here, there was also Princess Qing, The number 5 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings wasn't someone he, Xia Qianhan, could win against. Bring Tu Ting along, let's go. Xia Qianhan coldly spoke. After which, someone lifted Tu Ting's body as the people of the Twin Stars Alliance departed. They could only return to inform Xian Yang and Xiaoling Yue before making any further plans. After all, only 2 people from Qin Wendian's group had the strength to contend against them. Xian Yang was ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings and could fight against Princess Qing, Xiaoling Yue could fight against Qin Wendian who had the god's hand. There were still many other powerful geniuses from the Twin Stars Alliance. Since they had appeared, there was no need to be anxious. Unless Qin Wendian risked his life every time, he wouldn't have taken so long to appear again. Naturally, what was unexpected was that Qin Wendian's cultivation base actually broke through, stepping into the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. After the Twin Stars Alliance's members left, there were still quite a few geniuses gathered around to watch the show. Qin Wendian and Princess Qing seemed to be inseparable from each other the entire time. Just as everyone had guessed, they were a couple. Senior brother Qin, fortunately you arrived in time, Jun Mengchen said. Qin Wendian shook his head and said, if it weren't for me, Xian Yang wouldn't have caught you. How can you be blamed for this? Since we came to the city of ancient emperors together, we naturally have to share weal and woe together. These Xian brothers are too much of a bully. Back then, you didn't do anything wrong in killing Xian Xing. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the same. Now that I'm being hunted by Xian Yang, I can only admit that I'm weaker than him. But when I grow stronger in the future, I will definitely make them regret this. Jun Mengchen felt extremely unhappy. His cultivation base at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon was still too weak when compared to the geniuses at the peak of the Twin Stars Alliance. After all, the experts in the Twin Stars Alliance were as common as clouds, and there were many rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings. For example, Tu Ting could easily defeat Zi Qingxian. Oh right. At this moment, Jun Mengchen turned and stared at Hua Taishu. I haven't thanked you yet. Back then in the Eastern Sage Immortal Palace, we could be considered opponents. I didn't expect you to help us. Qin Wendian glanced at Hua Taishu. He also didn't expect Hua Taishu to help them. Although the grudges between them could be considered resolved with a smile, it was still a favor for Hua Taishu to help them. Many thanks, Qin Wendian also spoke. If I encountered such a situation, you would have helped me as well, right? Hua Taishu casually replied, causing Qin Wendian to start. Given the complicated relationship between him and Hua Taishu, if Hua Taishu was surrounded, there was indeed a high possibility that he would have helped him. However, if it wasn't for Hua Taishu's question, he wouldn't have thought of this. Right now, we already have 5 people. Not only that, we also have senior sister-in-law, ranked number 5 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Why don't we establish a sect as well and strengthen ourselves to contend against the Twin Stars Alliance? Jun Mengchen smiled as he glanced at Qin Wendian and Hua Taishu. Senior sister-in-law. Qin Wendian started. After which, he only saw Jun Mengchen rubbing his head in a simple and honest manner as he stared in the direction of Qing-er. Qing-er blinked, but her expression remained cold, as though she hadn't heard Jun Mengchen's words. Senior brother Qin, what do you think? Xian Yang and Xiaoling Yue were able to establish the Twin Stars Alliance. You and senior sister-in-law's strength isn't any weaker compared to the two of them. If we establish our own power, we might be able to surpass the Twin Stars Alliance and let them continue to be arrogant, Jun Mengchen unhappily spoke. That's not a bad suggestion. I heard that there are many ancient ruins in the city of ancient emperors. If we have many experts working together, our chances of obtaining good fortune would be much higher compared to fighting alone. What made Qin Wendian surprised was that Hua Taishu actually didn't have any objections and agreed with Jun Mengchen's suggestion. Qing Xian, do you think so as well? Qin Wendian asked Zi Qing Xian. Don't worry about it. Even if we don't succeed, we still have 5 people. In the future, when we all break through to the next level, even if there's no one else joining us, we would still be able to become one of the strongest powers in the city of ancient emperors, Zi Qing Xian replied. Right now, Princess Qing-er was at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon. Qin Wendian, Zi Qing Xian and Hua Taishu were at the 8th level, and Jun Mengchen was at the 7th level. They would be staying in the city of ancient emperors for a very long time, and there was even a possibility that they would attempt to break through to the immortal realm. At that time, the strength of the 5 of them would definitely be different. Qing-er, are you willing? Qin Wendian turned his head and stared at Qing-er, seeking her opinion. You can decide. Qing-er calmly replied, her words causing Jun Mengchen to laugh. Since senior sister-in-law has already said so, senior brother Qin, there's no need to hesitate any longer. Okay then, the 5 of us shall establish a sect. But how should we name it? Qin Wendian stared at them as he asked. Qing Xian and I will listen to senior brother, and senior sister-in-law will definitely support senior brother Qin as well. Why don't we name it the Qin sect? It's simpler, and there's no need for those fancy names. Senior brother Qin shall be the sect leader. Hua Taishu, what do you think? Jun Mengchen casually spoke. I have no objections. Hua Taishu calmly replied. It's decided then. Let's name it the Qin sect. Now, let's choose the location of the sect. How about the God Extermination Palace? A teasing expression appeared on Jun Mengchen's face. Back then when they first came to the city of ancient emperors, the God Extermination Palace wanted to bully them. Now, it was a good opportunity for them to take down the God Extermination Palace. There's no longer any meaning in dealing with the God Extermination Palace. Mengchen, now that the Twin Stars Alliance has merged with the Shao sect, have they decided on the location of their sect as well? Qin Wendian asked. No, Xian Yang and Xiaoling Yue are still guarding their respective locations. It's just that the Twin Stars Alliance will be the main force, and the Shao sect will have lesser people stationed there, Jun Mengchen replied. In that case, let's choose the Shao sect, Qin Wendian spoke, his words causing Jun Mengchen's eyes to gleam with sharpness. Directly attack the Shao sect. Right. Jun Mengchen nodded. Let's head to the Shao sect now. The 5 of them left as soon as they spoke, directly heading towards the location of the Shao sect. The experts in the surroundings all gleamed with sharpness. Were these 5 crazy fellows? No matter how strong they were, directly attacking the Shao sect. Although the Shao sect didn't have many people stationed there were still tens of geniuses from the city of ancient emperors. Did the 5 of them really want to attack the Shao sect? Although Princess Qing was ranked number 5 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, she shouldn't be that powerful, right? Let's go and take a look. If they can really take down the Shao sect, I don't mind joining the Qin sect and fighting together with them against the Twin Stars Alliance. In addition to Qin Wentian, there are already 2 beauties in the Qin sect. They aren't in any way inferior to Xian Yang and Xiaolin Yue. The experts all followed after them. The news soon circulated, and more experts headed towards the location of the Shao sect. Although the Shao sect had already merged with the Twin Stars Alliance, the Shao sect's location was still there. It had become a branch of the Twin Stars Alliance, and the old general of the Shao sect, Greed Wolf, was in charge of it. At this moment, Greed Wolf was sitting in a cultivation ground, cultivating. The rankings of the Immortal Ascension rankings in the City of Ancient Emperors changed frequently. Although his position was at the top, it wasn't very stable. He had to constantly raise his strength and step into the Immortal Foundation realm as soon as possible. The sound of wind drifted over. Greed Wolf opened his eyes only to see a silhouette appearing in the air before him. That person spoke to Greed Wolf, Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian have already appeared. It's said that Len Yu has already sent people to capture them. Should we go and take a look? There's no need to care about such a small matter. Len Yu will naturally have her own methods to deal with this. There's no need for us to bother about it. Greed Wolf faintly spoke. That person nodded, but at this moment, a raging wind gusted by from afar. That genius turned his gaze over as he furrowed his brows. Over there were 5 silhouettes that didn't seem to be from the Shao sect. At this moment, he saw Qin Wentian and his group. His countenance changed as he spoke. Greed Wolf, they're here. Who? Len Yu? Greed Wolf asked. It's Qin Wentian and his group. That genius mumbled. After that, Greed Wolf's silhouette flickered as he soared up into the air. With a single glance, he saw the 5 approaching experts. He then roared, "Old friends have come to visit. Everyone, stop what you're doing." His voice rang out, echoing through the entire Shao sect. After that, numerous figures soared up into the air, and in the blink of an eye, the geniuses of the Shao sect all appeared as they stared ahead. When Qin Wentian and his group arrived outside the Shao sect, they halted their steps and stared at the geniuses from afar. Greed Wolf stepped out and spoke in a clear voice, "Qin Wentian, do you want to return to the Shao sect?" "Qing, I'll be the main attacker. You protect me while I attack. Taishu, Mengchen, Qingxian, you guys clean up those we injured. Don't let them crawl back up." Qin Wentian immediately spoke. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out, and in an instant, his body expanded to several meters in size. God's hand appeared once more as tyrannical runic light flashed, radiating boundless energy. Boom, boom, boom. The geniuses all released their constellations when they saw Qin Wentian and his group didn't waste any words and immediately prepared to attack. For a moment, a terrifying aura shook the heavens and earth, engulfing this entire space. Left. Qin Wentian spoke. A powerful spatial energy enveloped the 5 of them. After which, a bright light flashed as they vanished from their original location, reappearing in front of 2 geniuses from the Shao sect. Hua Taishu stood in front as his eyes of samsara bloomed. Instantly, the 2 of them were immersed in a strange scene. Chapter 929. Qin Wentian's samsara eyes instantly caused the 2 of them to sink into an illusionscape. They instantly sensed the existence of the illusionscape, and their powerful wills guarded their hearts and minds, wanting to break free. However, they only saw Qin Wentian's God's hand directly appearing before one of them. The terrifying might contained within God's hand could only be described as terrifying. With a thunderous boom, one of the geniuses was directly flung through the air. The other person hurriedly retreated. The other geniuses all rushed over to aid him, only to see Qing Er standing there with a wave of her hand. A moment later, a spatial barrier appeared in front of her, as though wanting to isolate this entire space. Break! Greedwolf roared in rage. The geniuses all attacked at the same time, wanting to shatter the spatial barrier. But at this moment, a terrifying spatial light radiated from Qing Er. Her palms stretched out once more as the immortal slaying diagram appeared, rapidly expanding, transforming into an incomparably gigantic diagram that slashed outwards. The boundless attacks were all instantly destroyed by the immortal slaying diagram. No one was able to break through it. Qin Wentian's god's hand blasted towards another genius. That genius had no way to defend against the star-seizing grand palm imprint of God's hand. When the palm blasted out, his entire body felt as though it was being suppressed. With a thunderous boom, he was forcefully slammed into the ground, causing rumbling sounds to echo out. What a tyrannical attack! Even Tu Teng of the Immortal Ascension rankings couldn't withstand a single strike from God's hand. I'm afraid there aren't many geniuses who can withstand an attack from Qin Wentian. From afar, those who followed Qin Wentian here to spectate felt their hearts trembling when they saw two geniuses instantly losing their combat prowess. Qin Wentian was the main force, while Princess Qing Er was using her spatial energy to restrain him. These two absolute experts were simply too terrifying when they joined forces. Hua Taishu took the initiative to step out. Terrifying illusionscape energy directly affected the geniuses of his opponents. His constellation was released to the extreme, and his samsara eyes were omnipresent. The geniuses all felt as though they had fallen into an illusionscape, and just as they struggled free from it, a new one would appear. Boom! Qin Wentian's body expanded once more, becoming a 100-meter tall giant. Stepping out, God's hand slammed down as an incomparably huge violet-gold ancient bell descended from the sky. With a deafening boom, this ancient bell radiated boundless tribulation might that swept out in all directions, causing the hearts of the experts here to tremble as their wills became unstable. Bang! Yet another palm imprint slammed down. Another expert was sent flying, unable to resist at all. Qin Wentian was like an ancient god of war, standing tall between the heavens and earth. Not only that, he could attack unrestrainedly. Every single attack that came his way would be instantly dissipated by Qing Er's overwhelming strength. In addition to Hua Taishu's illusory arts, he was able to sweep through everything in his path. At this moment, the geniuses of the Shao sect felt extremely weak and frail. They were the descendants of emperors, but at this moment, they were like ants that could be squashed by Hua Taishu. Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian were at the back, cleaning up the battlefield. For those who were injured by Qin Wentian, they would immediately descend and continue to attack, directly causing their opponents to lose their combat prowess. Naturally, they would also seize all their interspatial rings, not holding back at all. In just a short period of time, over 10 experts were defeated, losing their combat prowess. This scene caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Greedwolf's countenance turned ashen when he saw his comrades falling one after another. His eyes flickered with a destructive coldness as he inclined his head and stared at the sky. His terrifying constellation was unleashed to the extreme as an incomparably cold hell direwolf appeared in the air. Its entire body was covered in hellfire, and its eyes gleamed with a terrifying blood-red light. This hell direwolf's body grew larger and larger, to the point where it was even more terrifying compared to Qin Wentian. Kill! Greedwolf howled. This hell direwolf spat out fearsome hellfire, wanting to incinerate everything as it lunged towards Qin Wentian and his comrades. Qing Er's spatial energy was unleashed to the extreme as boundless runic light flowed around her, interweaving into a gigantic golden screen of light that blocked the hellfire. After which, the hellfire was swallowed into the void. Roar! A heaven-shaking howl of rage rang out. Greedwolf stood in the air, as though he had fused as one with his hell direwolf constellation. He punched out with both his fists as the heavenly direwolf howled in rage. Countless heavenly dire wolves slammed into the golden screen of light, causing rumbling sounds to echo out, causing the golden screen to shatter unceasingly. Greedwolf was ranked number 12 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, and his combat prowess was naturally extremely strong. The other experts all supported Greedwolf when they saw him going berserk. They couldn't allow Qin Wentian and his comrades to gain the upper hand. Qing Heir, there's no need to defend. Let's attack together. Qin Wentian spoke. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out as his body expanded once again, growing to a height of 800 meters, resembling a supreme divinity. Qing Heir retracted her defenses. Qin Wentian blasted out a gigantic palm imprint, wanting to destroy everything. At the same time, Qing Heir stepped out as a terrifying palm imprint blasted out towards Greedwolf. Qing Heir's silhouette flickered as she directly vanished from sight, moving towards one of the geniuses. When that genius saw Qing Heir walking over, he frenziedly attacked. However, a mysterious spatial energy enveloped Qing Heir's body. She stepped out, directly passing through his attacks and punched out with a simple punch, tearing apart everything. With a boom, that genius felt as though his body was about to be torn apart as fresh blood gushed out. He had no way to defend against Qing Heir's strength. Qin Wentian's god's hand blasted out towards Greedwolf in the air. As this palm blasted out, numerous great rocks appeared in the air, directly destroying the incoming heavenly wolves. I'm ranked number 12 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. With the Hell Heavenly Wolf protecting me, how can I lose to an 8th level ascendant? Greedwolf's countenance was ice cold. He stepped out as the Hell Heavenly Wolf howled in rage, wanting to devour the heavens and earth. Greedwolf punched out with his fist. The Hell Heavenly Wolf appeared within his fist light as it blasted towards Qin Wentian. It was unknown how terrifying this attack power was. Qin Wentian's palms glowed with a blood-colored demonic light as he executed the 3-level battle art. God's hand blasted out with the heaven-suppressing star-seizing palm as a supreme suppressive might gushed forth, capable of suppressing all living beings. God's hand circulated with boundless runic light, containing the power of the great Tao as it directly collided with the Hell Heavenly Wolf. The entire sky trembled violently. Qin Wentian's palm had already undergone the refinement of the 10,000 laws record and was incomparably tyrannical compared to the past. Now that it was augmented by the secret art of God's hand, its might was incomparably terrifying. Under the might of this single strike, even the sky seemed to be on the verge of shattering. The gigantic body of the Hell Heavenly Wolf actually began to crumble apart under the might of this attack. Boom! The terrifying suppressive might blasted into Greedwolf, causing him to groan in misery as he was flung through the air. Qin Wentian grabbed out with his palms as the talons of a great rock appeared, directly grabbing hold of Greedwolf and smashing him into the ground. Rumble! A deep crater appeared as Greedwolf's body was forcefully smashed into the ground. At the same time when Qin Wentian defeated Greedwolf, Qing Er also dealt with 2 other geniuses. Although Qin Wentian told her to fight by herself, she still stood by Qin Wentian's side, blocking the attacks of the other geniuses for Qin Wentian. After all, Qin Wentian's body was too gigantic, it was very easy for him to be hit. After suppressing Greedwolf, Qin Wentian's body retreated several meters back. The wings of a great rock flashed as his silhouette flickered, directly vanishing as he flew towards a certain person. Retreat! That person roared. Regardless of Qing Er or Qin Wentian, they had no way to contend against him. The 2 of them had absolute superiority in terms of strength and could suppress any one of them. Such a battle wasn't something that could be turned around just by relying on numbers. Rumble! Numerous golden silhouettes bore down, directly suppressing this entire space. Qin Wentian's silhouette descended, and with a lift of his hands, he stabbed out with God's hand. A fearsome spear light swept through everything, destroying everything in its path. Although the spear light didn't directly penetrate into his opponent's body, the impact caused his bones to shatter and his internal organs to be heavily injured, causing him to lose all combat prowess. Go! The other geniuses all retreated in different directions. There was no longer a need for this battle to continue. Qin Wentian's attacks were extremely ruthless. Although he didn't use killing moves, those who were struck by him were all heavily injured. In addition to Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian cleaning up the battlefield, these geniuses all ended up in extremely miserable states. Qing turned her gaze to Qin Wendian only to see Qin Wendian speaking, "Let them leave." Complete victory. The spectators outside the Shao sect all felt their hearts trembling when they saw this battle. Before this, Qin Wendian was ranked number 100 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. After this battle, he would most probably continue to climb up. If he borrowed the power of God's hand, he would already be able to defeat the number 12 ranker, Greed Wolf. It was just that they didn't know if Qin Wendian could use God's hand as he pleased. If he could, that would be a power that truly belonged to Qin Wendian. His ranking might even be able to break through to the top 10. Although this Qin sect only has 5 members, their potential is extremely terrifying. With just Princess Qing, and Qin Wendian, they are already a force to be reckoned with. In addition to Hua Taixiu and the other 2, their potential is also extremely high. If they break through to the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, their combat prowess would surely be terrifying as well. Right now, they can already use illusions to affect the geniuses here. Senior brother, how should we deal with these fellows? Jun Mengchen gathered all the heavily injured geniuses together. Qin Wendian glanced at them and replied, "Throw them out." "Right." Jun Mengchen laughed. After that, he tossed those fellows out of the Shao sect one by one, causing the hearts of the geniuses outside to tremble. These fellows were truly ruthless. Not only did they heavily injure these geniuses, they even snatched away their interspatial rings. Those heavily injured geniuses all had cold expressions on their faces were completely pale. They couldn't even catch their breaths. Being tossed outside like animals, how humiliating was this? They had lost all faith in this battle. Chapter 930. Qin Wendian's group of 5 seized control of the Shao sect and obtained many interspatial rings, as well as several tens of geniuses from the Shao sect. After the battle, Qin Wendian went to the courtyard where he used to reside and to cultivate. He absorbed astral energy and continued to refine his divine energy. Defeating Greed Wolf and the others wasn't even worth mentioning. Right now, the Twin Stars Alliance had the number 4 and number 6 rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xian Yang and Xiaoling Yue, in addition to several rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings. They were the truly powerful ones. At the very least, with the strength of the 5 of them, it was impossible for them to contend against the Twin Stars Alliance. Although Jun Mengchen had injuries on his body, they weren't serious. While Qin Wendian was cultivating, he changed the words Shao, outside the Shao sect, to Qin sect, causing the people outside to be speechless. Did these 5 people really intend to establish the Qin sect here? How could the Twin Stars Alliance let them off? Most probably, it wouldn't be long before the Twin Stars Alliance found out about this and rushed over. Hence, the people outside didn't leave. In fact, there were even more experts rushing over. They knew that a huge clash might occur here. Back then when Qin Wendian killed Xian Xing, many people in the City of Ancient Emperors didn't have the chance to witness it. They also didn't have the chance to personally witness the might of God's hand. Now that they heard that Qin Wendian appeared in the City of Ancient Emperors again, it would truly be a pity if they didn't show up to take a look. The area outside the Shao sect and the current Qin sect was extremely lively. Geniuses kept appearing, and there were even many rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings. She's. Just at this moment, the gazes of many heavens' prides turned towards the figure of an incomparably cold and arrogant woman standing in the distance. That woman quietly stood there, yet it was as though she was the center of the entire world, stealing away everyone's light. It's Nam Huang Yunxi. Interesting, this battle already involved the number 4, number 5 and number 6 rankers. Now, the number 3 ranker, Nam Huang Yunxi, has also arrived. If Nam Huang Yunxi is here, the 3 most beautiful geniuses in the City of Ancient Emperors would all be gathered here, the spectators mused. Back then when Qin Wendian and the others entered the Emperor Palace, Nanfeng Yunxi had also entered and saw the monument left behind by the ancient emperor as well as the blood-colored runes. However, it was extremely difficult to comprehend those runes. It was like a heavenly book and eventually vanished from her mind. But after that, she heard that there was someone who succeeded in cultivating the god's hand. She couldn't help but to feel curious. The power she couldn't comprehend was actually comprehended by a 7th-level ascendant named Qin Wentian. Now that she heard that Qin Wentian had appeared in the city of ancient emperors, she decided to come over to take a look. She wanted to see how powerful the lost secret art of ancient Emperor Yi was. The appearance of the god's hand caused a storm to rise in the city of ancient emperors. 3 of the top 10 rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings fought against each other, and Qin Wentian also rose up. And now, there's another piece of news circulating in the city of ancient emperors. Seems like this time around, there's going to be a storm of commotion. Among the crowd, a genius murmured. His words caused the gazes of many to turn to him as they asked, "What news are you referring to?" "Everyone, have you not heard of it?" That person glanced at the crowd as he asked. "Could it be that this news is comparable to the appearance of the god's hand?" Someone asked, his eyes gleaming. "Many people have already received this news, and it's still spreading. I believe that this news will soon circulate throughout the entire city of ancient emperors. Let me tell you all about it. There's a rumor that the underworld mountains in the city of ancient emperors contains the inheritance of an ancient emperor. There's a high possibility that the inheritance of that ancient emperor is there," that person replied. Upon hearing their words, the crowd felt somewhat disappointed. One of them replied, "There have been people speculating about this since a long time ago. What's so strange about it? What do you know? This time around, it's different." That person snorted coldly as he retorted, "This time around, the news is concrete. Do you all know which ancient emperor it is?" "Which one?" The expressions of the crowd stiffened when they heard this. Many geniuses turned their gazes to the person who spoke. "The Brahma Heavenly Emperor." That person replied. As the sound of his voice faded, the gazes of everyone froze. It was as though they could hear their own heartbeats pounding unceasingly. "Is this true?" After a long time, someone asked, his voice trembling slightly. "The Brahma Heavenly Emperor," it was actually the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. They naturally had heard of the name of this ancient emperor before. Some referred to him as the Immortal Emperor, some referred to him as the Devil Emperor, and there were also some who referred to him as the Demon Emperor. There were many legends regarding the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, and there were even rumors that his true form was that of a demonic beast. However, there were no records in the ancient records that could prove that the Brahma Heavenly Emperor was the Demon Emperor. Although the Brahma Heavenly Emperor didn't unify the immortal realms, he had once killed several supremely powerful immortal emperors during his peak, seizing their strength. Not only that, he was even stronger than the previous immortal emperors, causing the entire immortal realms to tremble. After that, he was surrounded by the entire immortal realms and was hunted down frenziedly. Finally, they managed to obstruct the Brahma Heavenly Emperor at the unaging peak. In that battle, 8 peak-stage immortal emperors joined forces, wanting to kill the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. In that battle, all 8 immortal emperors died. Not a single one survived. From then on, the Brahma Heavenly Emperor vanished without a trace, as though he had never appeared in the immortal realms before. No one knew where he went, and even now, he was still a mystery. This immortal emperor that shook the past and present had vanished just like that, bringing along his ultimate art, the great Brahma art. No one knew what secrets this cultivation art contained. They only knew that after the Brahma Heavenly Emperor killed those immortal emperors, he used their ultimate arts and unleashed their power to an even greater extent, truly shocking the heavens and earth. Every expert cultivated a different elemental attribute, yet the Brahma Heavenly Emperor was able to cultivate their ultimate arts to such a terrifying degree. The cultivation art the Brahma Heavenly Emperor cultivated was mysterious and filled with creativity, as though it was an unprecedented cultivation art. But with the disappearance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, the divine art he cultivated, the great Brahma art, also disappeared. This ultimate art was lost. Right now, in the city of ancient emperors, there were people claiming that the underworld mountains were the ruins of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. How could the hearts of the geniuses not tremble? The underworld mountains contained the ruins of the Brahma heavenly emperor? In that case, even if they knew it was a treacherous place, they still had to give it a try. Of course it's true. This news has already circulated, and many people already know about it. Hence, there's no need for me to hide it. If I was the only one who received this news, I wouldn't have told you guys. That genius spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, a beautiful silhouette appeared before him, causing him to be stunned as he stared at the breathtaking countenance before him. Nam Huang Yunxi, that genius mumbled in a low voice. The person who appeared before him was none other than Nam Huang Yunxi. Where did this news originate from? Has it been verified that it's the ruins of the Brahma heavenly emperor? Nam Huang Yunxi asked. Evidently, there was no one who wouldn't be moved by the ruins of an ancient emperor. From ancient times until now, the immortal realms had experienced countless years. But in the long river of history, only a small number of ancient emperors could be remembered by the people. Each one of them could move the hearts of the people, let alone the Brahma heavenly emperor himself, who was already so mysterious and legendary. I have no idea where this news originated from, but in any case, it's gradually spreading. I feel that there are people intentionally spreading this news, but as for whether or not it's verified, I have no way of knowing. The underworld mountains is a treacherous place, and I've never been there before. Without actually seeing the ruins of the Brahma heavenly emperor, who would dare to say that it's true? That person replied, causing Nam Huang Yunxi's beautiful eyes to flicker. Seems like the truth of this matter still needed to be verified. With a flash, Nam Huang Yunxi's silhouette returned to her original location, causing that genius to feel a sense of disappointment. He sniffed the air forcefully, as though he still couldn't bear to part with that faint fragrance. Being so close to the supreme beauty Nam Huang Yunxi was truly refreshing. The news of the Brahma heavenly emperor swiftly circulated around. There were even some geniuses who wanted to form an alliance and head to the underworld mountains to investigate. Since there was such a rumor, they definitely couldn't miss it. After a period of time, from afar, a powerful aura gushed over. Many people turned their gazes over only to see a group of experts flying over in an imposing manner. Over 100 geniuses were present, and the two people in the lead exuded magnificence through the generations. These two were none other than the newest members of the Twin Stars Alliance, Xian Yang and Xiao Lingyue. Glancing over, one could see that outside the Xiao sect, the words Xiao had been changed to Qin. On the ground, there were many geniuses lying on the ground. Some had fainted, while others were too heavily injured to move. Upon seeing this scene, Xian Yang and Xiao Lingyue turned ashen as they commanded, "Bring them back to recuperate first." Behind them, several geniuses rushed forward, lifting Greed Wolf and the others up and bringing them away. Their Twin Stars Alliance's disciples were heavily injured and lying on the ground with no one to care about them. This was simply a humiliation. "Scram out!" Xian Yang roared, his voice shaking the heavens and earth as he lunged towards the Xiao sect. Terrifying sound waves engulfed this entire space, and everyone could feel the baleful aura radiating from Xian Yang. Qin Wentian. Xiao Lingyue's beautiful countenance was extremely cold at this moment, exuding an icy killing intent. Back then in that battle, she almost died. It was only because the Xiao Emperor's immortal sense appeared and brought her away from the battlefield, saving her life. This already caused her to lose all face in the city of ancient emperors. Now, Qin Wentian and a mere group of 5 actually dared to kill their way into the Xiao sect, injuring an old member of the Xiao sect and tossing them outside? This was a great humiliation. From within the Xiao sect, a figure soared up into the air. This was none other than Qin Wentian. Beside him, the silhouette of Qing could be seen, exuding an incomparably breathtaking beauty, akin to a flawless snow lotus. Many people surveyed Qing before turning their gazes onto Xiao Lingyue and Nam Huang Yunxi. Today, the 3 great beauties of the city of ancient emperors were all gathered here. This was truly a feast for the eyes. Every single one of them exuded a different kind of beauty. Nam Huang Yunxi was also surveying Qin Wentian and Qing This Qin Wentian seems somewhat familiar. Back then when she was heading to the Emperor Palace, she had seen him before. But back then, she didn't pay much attention to him. Who would have thought that he was the one who cultivated God's hand? At that time, he was still inconspicuous behind Shaolin Yue. Who would have thought that he would cause such a commotion so quickly? Chapter 931. In the air beside Qin Wentian and Qing, Hua Taishu, Zi Qingxian and Jun Mengchen appeared one after another. Jun Mengchen spoke, "What's wrong? These old members of the Shao sect can't do it, but the Twin Stars Alliance is planning to use their entire sect to deal with the five of us? Qin Wentian, you guys are too impudent." Shaolin Yue's countenance was as cold as ice. Before this, she wanted to obtain the god's hand from Qin Wentian and even resorted to using her beauty. But now, when she saw Qing standing beside Qin Wentian, she understood that from the start till the end, she was nothing but a joke in the eyes of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian had never had any intentions towards her. He was originally a couple with the daughter of the Chongqing the Great, Qing. You are allowed to deal with my junior apprentice brother and sister, but I'm not allowed to deal with the people of your Shao sect. Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto Shaolin Yue, his countenance similarly cold. In addition, the five of us fought against over 10 experts of your Shao sect in an open and above-board manner. Isn't this the rule of the competition between geniuses in the city of ancient emperors? Shaolin Yue, it seems that I've overestimated you by sending so many geniuses to deal with my junior apprentice brother and sister. So it turns out that you, the number 6 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, are so weak. Shut up. A terrifying coldness gushed forth from Shaolin Yue as she spoke. Before this, all of you pitifully joined my Shao sect. My Shao sect protected all of you, but who would have thought that all of you would be such despicable people, making use of me? After obtaining the god's hand, you immediately revealed your despicable side. I, Shaolin Yue, have truly been blind. Your words are truly shameless. Zi Qingxian couldn't bear to continue listening to this. This Shaolin Yue wasn't willing to accept the painful lesson from before and was still consoling herself now. There's no need to argue about right and wrong, it's meaningless. Qin Wentian stepped out as he spoke. Shaolin Yue, we have yet to form a death grudge. If you still have some backbone, why don't you fight me one-on-one? Do you think we need to fight you alone? Xian Yang's killing intent was extremely heavy. Because of Xian Xing's death, he and Qin Wentian had become mortal enemies. He would never let Qin Wentian off. If there was a chance, he would definitely kill him. You want the entire Twin Stars Alliance to attack together? Sweeping a glance at Xian Yang, Qin Wentian sneered, what a joke. Do you think I'll play with you in such a battle? If I want to leave, Qing'er has a spatial immortal treasure on her. Who would be able to stop us? I will wait for you two at the Shao sect. Xian Yang, you and Shaolin Yue are both rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings. If you can still be considered a man, why don't the two of you fight against us? The hearts of everyone trembled when they heard Qin Wentian's words. When they thought of Qing'er's identity and the strength she was proficient in, they couldn't help but to think that Qin Wentian and the others were already prepared. Indeed, if the Twin Stars Alliance wanted to join forces against the five of them, there was no need for Qin Wentian to face them. He might as well leave. The entire Twin Stars Alliance had over 100 geniuses, and there were even quite a few rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings. How could Qin Wentian's group of 5 fight against them? The reason why Qin Wentian was waiting here was because he wanted to settle things with Xian Yang and Shaolin Yue. He would join forces with Qing'er to fight against Shaolin Yue and Xian Yang. 2 against 2, it would be a fair battle. The gazes of the various geniuses all landed on Xian Yang. If he didn't agree and chose to gang up on them, it would be meaningless for Qin Wentian to leave immediately. Xian Yang would surely be criticized by others. After all, he and Shaolin Yue were ranked number 4 and number 6 respectively, while Qing'er was only ranked number 5, lower than him. As for Qin Wentian, he was currently only ranked number 100 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Even if it was 2 against 2, it seemed that he and Xiaolin Yue still held an absolute advantage. There was no need for them to cower. Qin Wentian seemed to have made a request that Xian Yang couldn't reject. He wanted to take revenge for Xian Xing, so he had to rely on his own strength to kill Qin Wentian. He didn't even need to borrow an immortal-ranked weapon. If he used an immortal-ranked weapon like before and Qin Wentian risked his life, the ending would be one where both sides suffered heavy losses. Qing'er would also be able to bring him away. Only to see Xian Yang turning his gaze onto Xiaolin Yue. In the previous battle, Xiaolin Yue fought against Qing'er and the ending was her defeat. This time around, her side had Xian Yang who was ranked even higher than Qing'er. As for her opponent, it was Qin Wentian who had only broken through to the next level. Indeed, from the surface, the possibility of them winning was extremely high. Even though Qin Wentian had stepped into the 8th level of celestial phenomenon, he was still much weaker compared to them. The only advantage Qin Wentian had was the secret art of ancient Emperor Yi, the God's Hand. Xiaolin Yue nodded to Xian Yang. After which, the gazes of the two of them turned over, staring at Qin Wentian and Qing'er. They stepped out, walking towards the battlefield, preparing to fight the battle that belonged to them. Qin Wentian saw this scene. He and Qing'er also walked forward. The 4 great geniuses stood in the air, exuding an unexcelled might. Any one of them was a supreme genius with outstanding talent. I will deal with Qing'er, you help me kill Qin Wentian. Don't show mercy, Xian Yang transmitted his voice to Xiaolin Yue. Xian Yang transmitted his voice to Xiaolin Yue. As the number 4 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, he was above Qing'er. Back then, Xiaolin Yue was defeated by Qing'er. Hence, for this battle, he chose to deal with Qing'er, while Xiaolin Yue faced Qin Wentian. Understood. Xiaolin Yue replied. From the positions of the 4 of them, the spectators already understood what Xian Yang and Xiaolin Yue were thinking. Using the strong against the weak, Xian Yang who was ranked higher would fight against Qing'er, while Xiaolin Yue should be able to defeat Qin Wentian. In that case, both of them would have an advantage, and the ending of the battle was obvious. The 4 of them respectively released their tyrannical auras as well as their strongest constellations. Upon seeing Xian Yang's constellation, that ancient mirror constellation made everyone feel that Xian Yang was already in an undefeatable position. His heavenly mystic mirror art was able to reflect attacks, there was no way he could win. All the geniuses in the surroundings were seriously watching this battle, including Namhuang Yunxi. The 3 behind her were all present, and it was a chaotic battle. Such a battle wasn't something that could be seen frequently, and it was extremely rare to see. Princess Qing'er's constellation seems to be extremely powerful as well. That spatial constellation diagram seems to contain all sorts of spatial might within it. The powerful spatial might enveloped Princess Qing'er within, making her seem sacred and inviolable. God's hand has appeared. At this moment, the spectators once again saw God's hand. Qin Wentian's palms shimmered with a resplendent light, and very swiftly, his palms started to transforming into an incomparably majestic God's hand, resembling the palm of a true divinity. Behind Qin Wentian, a pair of wind rock wings appeared. His gigantic body shimmered with fiend god light, and a terrifying bloodline power circulated within him. Rumble. Xiaolin Yue acted. Her palms blasted out, and an instant later, a surge of freezing energy gushed forth. A huge stretch of space in the sky was instantly frozen, as though she wanted to freeze both Qin Wentian and Qing'er. Qing'er blasted out a golden fist light, lacerating everything, directly shattering the freezing energy. A terrifying long spear appeared in Qin Wentian's God's hand. When this long spear pierced out, a formless energy akin to an unknown tempest manifested, directly destroying everything. Xian Yang also acted. Xian Yang acted. He brandished his long spear and directly pierced towards Qing'er with a speed as fast as lightning. The astral light from his constellation frenziedly gushed forth, forcing Qing'er to fight against him. Xiaolin Yue also acted against Qin Wentian. Stepping out, her frozen extermination calamity finger directly stabbed towards Qin Wentian. Instantly, Qin Wentian felt his entire body turning cold as a surge of freezing energy penetrated through him. Qing'er's slender jade-like fingers blasted towards Xian Yang's long spear. Numerous golden swords slashed out, destroying everything in front of them. Qin Wentian's long spear continued piercing out, using the power of God's hand to unleash a terrifying might. The freezing energy in front of Xiaolin Yue rapidly shattered apart. Xiaolin Yue could clearly feel a supreme pressure gushing towards her. God's hand. Nam Huang Yunxi's beautiful eyes stared fixedly at Qin Wentian's attack. The power of God's hand was simply too terrifying. In addition to Qin Wentian's own spear arts, his attack had truly reached the level of a peak stage 9th level ascendant. In the future, if he broke through to the 9th level of celestial phenomenon and used God's hand to attack, his power would be even more terrifying. Xiaolin Yue's finger stabbed out. Instantly, a surge of freezing energy directly froze the long spear, wanting to freeze Qin Wentian's God's hand as well. A startling energy directly enveloped Qin Wentian's body. In just a short instant, half of Qin Wentian's body was enveloped by the freezing energy, about to be frozen to death. Xiaolin Yue has comprehended the law energy of freezing. Although it's only at the embryonic form, it's already sufficient to kill celestial phenomenon ascendants. Nam Huang Yunxi silently mused when she saw this scene. If Qin Wentian's attacks only reached a certain level, he would be able to fight evenly against Xiaolin Yue. However, he had no way to defend against the corrosive power of Xiaolin Yue's law energy. Xiaolin Yue's beautiful eyes flickered with coldness, it was as though her gaze wanted to penetrate through Qin Wentian. However, at this moment, Qin Wentian's entire body trembled as a supreme energy gushed forth from him. The layer of frost around him instantly shattered apart as God's hand continued its attack, bringing with it boundless killing intent, wanting to destroy Xiaolin Yue with a single strike. How can this be? He has comprehended it as well. Xiaolin Yue's beautiful eyes flashed with bewilderment and shock. She knew how difficult it was to comprehend such an energy. If one didn't reach the pinnacle of celestial phenomenon, it would be extremely hard to come into contact with such an energy. If one couldn't even sense it, how could one comprehend it? However, earlier, a powerful aura erupted forth from Qin Wentian. If it wasn't that energy, what could it be? Qin Wentian's cultivation base was only at the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. He shouldn't have come into contact with such an energy. That energy didn't belong to Qin Wentian. Let's try again. Xiaolin Yue's beautiful eyes flashed with coldness. Upon seeing the long spear shooting towards her, her body instantly froze, transforming into an ice sculpture. Traces of law energy circulated around the ice sculpture, extremely terrifying to the extreme. Pooh! The resplendent long spear stabbed out, directly penetrating through the ice sculpture. The expression in Xiaolin Yue's beautiful eyes changed, this attempt had already confirmed her conjecture. Qin Wentian had indeed comprehended that energy as well. Chapter 932. Xiaolin Yue was forced back. The wings on Qin Wentian's back flickered as he instantly closed in with a speed akin to golden lightning. Kill! Qin Wentian stabbed out with his spear, yet at this moment, a white light flashed as an ancient mirror manifested. Qin Wentian's spear directly slammed into it, shattering the ancient mirror. However, the rebound force from the impact caused Qin Wentian's palms to tremble slightly, dissipating the force of his spear. Xian Yang, who was fighting at the side, was the one who had unleashed this attack. How could Xiaolin Yue miss this opportunity? At the instant Qin Wentian's spear force dissipated, she let out a shrill cry. Her long hair fluttered in the wind as frost covered her entire body. Xiaolin Yue punched out with both her fists, causing the ice statues in the air to explode. If ordinary geniuses were to receive such a terrifying attack, their bodies would surely disintegrate. In a battle between experts of their level, victory or defeat could be decided in a single thought. Qin Wentian's attack was blocked by Xian Yang, allowing Xiaolin Yue to seize this opportunity to attack. Qin Wentian's body was instantly frozen, his internal organs were all frozen to death. When Xiao Lingyue's fist punched out, he could faintly sense that his body was about to shatter into countless particles. It was extremely terrifying. The runic light circulating around Qin Wentian's body intensified to the extreme as an inextinguishable might bore down on Xiao Lingyue. The constellation in the sky shone with a dazzling light as his god's hand moved again. When Xiao Lingyue was about to close in on him, he stabbed out with his spear. This spear strike was capable of suppressing all existences. Everywhere it passed by, the ice and frost were all shattered as the two forces clashed madly in the air. Go! The long spear in Qin Wentian's hand expanded explosively, wanting to destroy everything in its path. The long spear flew out of his hands. Xiao Lingyue screamed in a frenzy. This suppressive might had her as the center, causing the space around her to freeze. If there was someone beside her, they would instantly be frozen to death. But right at this moment, a person was enveloped by spatial energy and directly penetrated through, instantly descending from the heavens. His destructive fist light lacerated everything, causing the countenance of Xiao Lingyue who was defending against Qin Wentian's attack to drastically change. Bzz. When Xianyang saw this, he immediately turned and chased after Qin Wentian, only to see Qin Wentian similarly turning and blasting out a star-seizing palm imprint towards Xianyang. This palm imprint contained the power to annihilate everything, destroying everything in its path. Xianyang roared. Numerous incomparably mystical ancient mirrors appeared in the air as his heavenly mystic mirror art was unleashed to the extreme. Qin Wentian's attack directly slammed into the heavenly mystic mirror art, but the terrifying rebound force caused Qin Wentian's palms to tremble. However, Xianyang's long spear exploded forth from behind the ancient mirror. Powerful, no wonder Xianyang can be ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. His heavenly mystic mirror art is too difficult to break. Although Xianyang's attacks aren't that powerful, with the miraculous properties of the heavenly mystic mirror art, his opponent's attacks would be the same as him attacking himself. Unless his opponent's attacks were many times stronger than him, only then would they be able to shatter his heavenly mystic mirror art. Clearly, the current Qin Wentian has yet to reach this level. It would be extremely difficult to defeat Xianyang. However, this battle wasn't a one-on-one battle. It was a two-on-two battle. Qin Wentian understood that Xianyang's heavenly mystic mirror art was extremely powerful, and it would be extremely difficult for him to break through it. Qin Wentian's entire person was akin to a true wind rock as he retreated. The Void Atlas appeared, revolving frenziedly as Qing replaced Qin Wentian's position. Xianyang's long spear directly pierced into the Void Atlas, as though it was being sucked into it. The exchange between Qin Wentian and Qing was perfect. Qing blocked Xianyang's attack, while Qin Wentian was like a gust of wind as he blasted out a palm strike towards Xiao Lingyue. Xiao Lingyue initially wanted to circle around Qin Wentian to join up with Qing and Xianyang, but she was directly interrupted by the palm strike. It was as though she and Xianyang were completely separated by Qing and Qin Wentian. Princess Qing and Qin Wentian aren't at a disadvantage against Xianyang and Xiao Lingyue at all. If they were to win this battle, the Twin Stars Alliance would truly lose all face, the spectators mused. Right now, the Twin Stars Alliance had formed an alliance with the Xiao sect in the past. The Twin Stars Alliance was Xianyang and Xiao Lingyue. If they were to lose this battle, the Twin Stars Alliance, which was considered the #1 sect in the City of Ancient Emperors, would truly lose all face. The spectators could see that the attacks of the four were all extremely ferocious. Qin Wentian and Xiao Lingyue exchanged attacks, but Princess Qing was more focused on neutralizing Xianyang's attacks. Because Xianyang's heavenly mystic mirror art was extremely hard to break, she had no way to break through it in a short period of time. Hence, she chose to defend, alternating between Qin Wentian and suddenly appearing before Xiao Lingyue, catching her off guard. Princess Qing unleashed the advantage of her spatial energy to the extreme, while Qin Wentian's speed was also faster than Xiao Lingyue's. As the battle continued, Xiaolin Yue's situation grew increasingly unfavorable. Qin Wentian, you are truly despicable. As a man, you actually have to rely on a woman to aid you in battle. Xiaolin Yue coldly spoke. She had already unleashed all her techniques, yet she had no way to break through God's hand and defeat Qin Wentian. She was already feeling a trace of impatience and was intentionally provoking Qin Wentian with her words, wanting to provoke Qin Wentian's temper. However, Xiaolin Yue only saw Qin Wentian smiling coldly at her. That smile seemed to be mocking her. At the same time Qin Wentian attacked, he spoke, Xiaolin Yue, how laughable. Despite being ranked number 6 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, your strength is only at this level. We can end this battle now, I'll show you the true might of God's hand. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, the spectators only saw his palm radiating boundless light, incomparably resplendent. Countless runic inscriptions flowed frenziedly, and it was unknown how terrifying that palm was. It was as though the power contained within was about to explode forth in an instant. Xiaolin Yue's eyes stared fixedly at Qin Wentian's palm. She could see the runic inscriptions flowing frenziedly, transforming into a terrifying vortex that frenziedly devoured the boundless energy. That palm merely hung there, yet a terrifying destructive tempest manifested. The might contained within caused Xiaolin Yue's heart to pound wildly. In the previous battle, your God's hand was shattered. Once you unleash it, you won't be able to use it a second time. You've overdrafted the energy of your God's hand. Xiaolin Yue stared at Qin Wentian. Your guess is correct. God's hand is able to maintain a powerful combat state for a long period of time. After the battle ends, I can retract it. Naturally, God's hand has another unique characteristic, it can truly unleash the might of a divinity. It's a true combat God's hand. Qin Wentian spoke. After which, his silhouette flickered as he lifted his palm and blasted it towards Xiaolin Yue. At this instant, an incomparably gigantic palm imprint descended from the heavens, bringing with it an unexcelled might that could suppress and destroy everything. This kind of pressure caused Xiaolin Yue to feel a sense of helplessness. She let out a heaven-shaking roar as boundless frost energy gushed forth from her body, transforming into numerous icy mountains that blasted towards the gigantic palm imprint. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out as everything was about to be shattered. Not only that, it was so fast that it was like a beam of light, capable of destroying everything. Boom! A deafening sound rang out, the space where Xiaolin Yue was standing was filled with a terrifying impact. After which, the spectators only saw a gigantic crater appearing on the ground, as though a human silhouette had been smashed into it. The spectators were all dumbfounded as they stared at the crater. Even the battle between Qing, and Xian Yang halted as they stared in that direction. The ground there was completely frozen, resembling a crater of ice and snow. An instant later, a coughing sound rang out as a figure crawled out from the crater with great difficulty. Fresh blood flowed unceasingly from his mouth. Xiaolin Yue inclined her head and stared at Qin Wentian who was in the air. Her eyes were filled with a sense of despair. After losing to Qing, who was ranked one of the top rankers, today, she was defeated by Qin Wentian in a domineering manner. Qin Wentian was someone she had once lured into the Shao sect. Initially, she wanted to make use of him to find a way to enter the Emperor Palace and she did find it. However, because of this, Qin Wentian managed to cultivate God's hand while she gained nothing. Half a year later, Qin Wentian defeated her. How ironic was this? Xiaolin Yue was defeated by Qin Wentian. The countenances of the crowd turned cold. Qin Wentian who had obtained God's hand was destined to rise domineeringly in the city of ancient emperors. The glow of God's hand in his palm dimmed. Although it was still there, it no longer had the dazzling luster from before. Xian Yang's countenance was ice cold. His silhouette flickered as he directly dashed towards Qin Wentian. Without God's hand, how could Qin Wentian defend against his attacks? Even if he was the only one left, this battle wasn't over yet. However, Qing's silhouette flickered as she appeared before Xian Yang. Her spatial manipulation was extremely powerful and could easily block Xianyang's path. Although she had no way to break Xianyang's heavenly mystic mirror art, Xianyang had no way to defeat her as well. As the spectators watched their battle, they felt that there wasn't much of a difference between the 4th and 5th rankers. Xianyang relied on the heavenly mystic mirror art and was in an invincible position. But even his attacks had no way to deal with Qin Er. With regards to this point, Qin Wendian already knew it before the battle started. After all, he had fought against Xianyang before, and knew of his strengths and weaknesses. He slowly walked forwards, only to see several experts from the Twin Stars Alliance heading their way. For a moment, their auras surged violently. Why? You can't afford to lose. Qin Wendian swept his gaze over the crowd as he coldly spoke. His words caused them to halt their steps as they stared at Qin Wendian with cold eyes. There were even quite a few who flew down to take care of Xiaolin Yue. What happened? At this moment, a voice drifted down from the heavens. After which, a silhouette soared through the air. This person exuded an indescribable aura, and although his aura wasn't tyrannical or sharp, just by standing in the air, it was as though he was a supreme character that had descended from the heavens. His voice was as light as the wind, yet it contained an unparalleled might.